Good evening. Welcome to our Draper City Planning Commission meeting. Today's date is March 12th. I'm Andrew Adams, and we want to thank all the commissioners up here that volunteer their time. Especially also want to thank the staff for meeting with the applicants throughout the week, prepping up for this. And then also want to thank the attendees here tonight. We've got applicants and then also our good neighbors that are visiting and probably have some input for us. So welcome, everyone. So let's go ahead and get things started. We have an agenda posted online and in the back of the room. That's going to stay as proposed. So we're going to start out with our first public hearing tonight. It's the Fratto Farms Development Agreement. It's a zoning map amendment and land use map amendment request. It's on the request of Troy Dana of Westland Development, representing Fratto Farms LLC. A development agreement, a land use map amendment from the residential medium density to residential high density land use designation, and a zoning map amendment from RA2, which is residential agricultural 20,000 foot lot minimums, to RM2, which is multifamily residential 12 dwellings unit per acre maximum. Zoned for approximately 2.03 acres. It's located at approximately 791 East, 12200 South. This is known as application 2025-0013-MA, 2025-0014-MA, and 2025-0299-DA. Our staff contact on this is Nick Whitaker. So Nick, I'll let you go ahead and present what you've got prepared.
Thank you. So this is the Fratto Farms Development Agreement, Land Use Map Amendment, and Zoning Map Amendment. Since there's a few things going on in this application, here's a quick summary. There's a land use map amendment to allow for higher density development, a zoning map amendment to allow... Oops, sorry. No problem, thank you. Let me repeat that. So the summary of the requests that are happening in this application are, it's a land use map amendment to allow for higher density development, a zoning map amendment to allow for smaller lots, and a development agreement to create a 15-lot residential development for detached single-family homes. Here's a vicinity map. The property is there in red. Here's an aerial map of the property. It's just right on the corner of 12200 South, 800 East. Land use map, the current land use is residential medium density. And as you can see, the surrounding land use is commercial and residential. The zoning map, the zone for the property is RA2. So the proposed land use map amendment is to change the existing residential medium density to residential high density. Here's an overview of the two different types of land uses per our city's master plan. Really, if you look at the density, the difference in the density, that's really the reason why that this is going through, or the reason why they applied for this, sorry. The proposed zoning map amendment is from RA2 to RM2. The RA2 currently allows for the development of 20,000 square foot minimum lots. And the RM2 would allow for up to 12 dwelling units per acre. This property is 2.03 acres in size, so that would be up to about 24 dwelling units. The overview of the zoning map amendment request is here. Again, kind of what I've already stated with the lot size, the difference in lot size, and the amount of dwelling units that you would be able to put on the property with the proposed zone, and then the purpose as listed in the Draper City Municipal Code. And then there's the proposed development agreement. The development agreement has some key components to it that address the density. among other things, but density is pretty key in what's being proposed in the agreement, and that is that the density is regulated. So per the agreement, no more than 15 lots shall be permitted. The housing type is limited to detached single-family homes, and each lot is limited to one detached single-family home. So 15 lots and 15 detached single-family homes. The building height is limited to 35 feet in height. Each lot has front, rear, and side yard areas. It incorporates walkability and pedestrian design. The developer provides sidewalk, curb, gutter, park strip, and street trees along 800 East and 12200 South. Design standards that will not, it includes design standards that will not close off the development from the community, which includes facing some of the lots toward 800 East. And the agreement also includes and incorporates a master plan, which I'll get to in a moment. There's lot-specific changes to the RM2 setback requirements. This is a list of them. I won't go over each one, but they are in the report. There's changes to driveway depth requirements for 3 of the lots. Basically, it would allow for 20-foot long driveways, but 5 of the feet would be located in the public right-of-way, so really on the property itself it would be 15 feet. So here is the master plan. It was provided by the applicant. As you can see, along 800 East, some of the homes are faced toward the street. They incorporated a street to cut through to access the 9 of the homes. As you can see, they provide sidewalk, park strip. They complete the sidewalk that isn't there at this moment. And then, again, on this, there's a list of the lot-specific setbacks that are different from the RM2 standards. They also include yard areas, so that the houses aren't right up against each other. So here's a site photo. It's right at the corner there, 122 or 12200 South and 800 East. That's from 800 East. And that's a photo from 12200 South. And that's what it looked like a year ago. And that is my presentation.
Thanks, Nick. All right, commissioners, any questions for staff?
I have a question. On the height, the 35 feet, is that pretty standard in our residential
It is.
code? I thought so.
It's 37 feet actually in
30,
code,
okay.
so.
Has there been any discussion about limiting the size other than the height of the homes, maybe square footage, things like that? These are small lots, and I guess I just have general concerns about ginormous structures being built on really small lots.
There was no real discussion on how the homes will look. They are purposely designed to be smaller. And Mr. Dana is not here this evening to discuss about his architect is, so his architect may be able to answer some of those questions regarding the design and so forth.
Thanks.
On page 12 of the staff report, there's no signature by the Public Works, Draper City Public Works Department.
We were able to, we were not able to get the signature at the time because they were not in the office, but the signer is here now next to me. It's Brian.
I happened to be on vacation that day, but yeah, I have reviewed it and signed off on the staff report.
There's another staff report later tonight. Did you do both?
I typically sign any of them that come, but I have reviewed all the staff reports for the meeting. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we don't have to revisit that one. I would like to know also, Nick, showing the zoning, I can't remember which, if it was the zoning map or land use map, it showed some homes that were, or some multifamily units that are, I think they're the RM1. Are those townhome, or no, RM2, that little spot of RM2 just to the northeast slightly? Can you go to the, yeah, like this? Those look like those are townhomes too, except they're attached to each other. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and do I see all of them of that lot, or are there more in that lot? Do you recall?
I believe there are more in that lot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty small development, so that lot's kind of just right off the page there, but kind of what you see is what you get there.
Yeah.
Lisa, I think that's all of them. I actually drove through that yesterday,
Oh, yeah?
and I think that is all of them.
Okay. Thank you. All right, thanks.
And a question I have for staff or Nick or Jen or whomever, is the station area plan radius, is this property inside that station area plan for Kimball's Lane?
It intersects it, or it goes through about half the property.
Okay, so it's okay. So how does that station area plan affect this property then?
So the stationary plan didn't. You know what? I have for another item here. I've got
there it
some
is.
items for. So this is that
Well prepared. Well, good job, Jen.
half-mile radius for the station area plan.
Yeah.
So it does look at, you've got existing neighborhood that maybe some infill development, maybe some improvements to trails, things like that. But the stationary plan itself really didn't concentrate in this specific area of the grid and kind of concentrated closer to the actual station itself.
So what's this radius represent here? What are we looking at?
So the overall radius, that's the half-mile radius that we had to look at under state law for the stationary plan. Okay. And I think it's this one. Yeah. So this is kind of essentially this little paragraph right here is the only little blurb for this portion of that radius. Knowing that there may be potential for changes in the future, but not really diving into exactly what that may look like.
So just to help understand, so does the state require different density and zoning to be allowed because of this stationary plan? Because of this radius? Because what I'm getting at is this property's come to us, 3 times, maybe there's a 4th time. So what I'm getting at is this now I'm looking at this and saying, okay, well, this is in that radius. So what does the radius mean? Does the radius mean we have to allow, or we should allow, or we should plan for that, or it doesn't matter? Because what I heard you just say is, well, our stationary plan is around this little orange area here.
So the state law said we have to look at everything within a half-mile radius, but within that half-mile, we can determine what's ripe for redevelopment, what we think will stay the same. We do have existing residential neighborhoods, existing commercial development within that radius that we don't see being redeveloped. We don't see changes happening. So when the city evaluated the areas around the Kimball Station, we really looked at the Olbari Farm and the actual UTA property. We didn't dive into other areas within that radius because most of it is established neighborhoods that we don't see
None of these track stations have been plopped down in the middle of the desert. They've all got got existing around them. So what's the radius for? Just one last clarification. What's that radius for? Is that radius, why the radius, and then what's the difference between the radius that's suggested versus what I'm hearing you say is you only looked at a lot, or we, the city, looked at something a lot more concentrated around that track station.
So
Does that radius and the state law apply and help or hurt this applicant as far as being able to say this development agreement is helped based on this?
So that radius is based on walking distance. The state basically said within half mile of that track station, people can walk. So you need to evaluate density and redevelopment within that half mile.
Perfect.
As a city, we determined we're going to concentrate on those properties we know are going to be redeveloped versus speculating on what individual private property owners may want to do.
Great. That's a good explanation on that. Thanks for answering that.
Can I piggyback on that question, which was the last time this applicant was here, I believe that one of the things we talked about was doing an overall assessment of what we thought development was going to be in the area. So has a lot of that changed versus now? Do we have updated info that would maybe change our opinions about what should happen?
Well, I mean, as we just discussed, it does fall into that half-mile radius of the I just blanked on the name, but the transit-oriented development. It is within that walking distance of transit, so I mean, it falls into transit-oriented development. In terms of how that should look, again, that's I mean, from what Jen said, that's kind of how that lands. So for this property in particular, I think it would be appropriate to say that having more density at this property would be appropriate to meet those goals of transit-oriented development, strictly in terms of walkability.
I'll add on to that. So we did have 2 previous hearings with 2 different proposals on this property last year. The city council did meet with neighbors and ask for information about that area and that neighborhood from the city council, or to the city council. So staff did present to city council some information about the neighborhood and kind of dive in a little bit on what the densities are that are existing, the land uses, that kind of thing, so that they can have kind of more of a basis of what's actually there in the neighborhood. But the city did not do any like master planning specifically for this area.
Go ahead.
And this did not go to the city council. The 2 applications prior did not go to the city council, right? Okay.
Correct.
Great. All right. Thank you, staff. We appreciate that. All right. Is the applicant here? Yep. The architect. Perfect. Will you just state your name?
I'm Tyler Kirk with Think Architecture.
Okay.
So I'm not the applicant. I am just his architect. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have. So feel free. Someone asked about the size. I can maybe respond to that if you want.
Yeah, I mean, whatever information you could give would be great.
None of the homes are permanently designed right now. They're just conceptual, but most of them will probably be under 2,500 square feet. Some will probably be under 2,000 square feet. Just depending on whether we finish basements, not finish basements, that kind of thing.
And I think my issue is more that it's not in the development agreement, which you really don't have anything to do with.
Yeah,
so there's,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
The setbacks. It'd be limited by the setbacks.
The size of a home
The size
would
of the
be
home.
determined by our required setbacks anyway.
To some degree, yeah.
Yeah,
But
to
you
some
can go
degree.
up to 35 feet, which is
True.
pretty tall. I mean, you could have a basement and 2 stories
Yeah.
at 35 feet, and yeah. Which I mean, I look at this, and we had a member of our planning commission several years ago when we had development agreements would say, "What's the city getting out of this?" And that's kind of how I feel when I look at this. I feel like the city's giving a lot of leeway with all the reductions and the zone change and all that, and you know, we're getting some curb and gutter, sure, but that's part of our code that has to be done. And I look at that and I see so many homes in Draper, or so many lots where it's just the hugest home that can be crammed onto that lot with the minimum setbacks. And here we don't even have minimum setbacks. And I just find that really problematic in a situation like this where this builder is being given a lot in the development agreement. So that's where I stand.
One
on
of the
that.
things I think I noticed there, what is with this zone change, moving from the residential agricultural, right, down to the RA2 to RM2, what would be allowed without the restriction of only 15 lots? Is the development agreement limiting that to 15, and could there be a higher density without that development agreement?
So without the development agreement in place, you could essentially get 24 units.
So that, Mary, would be the
It's
answer
one
to
thing.
what's the city getting, is it's getting a limitation on the units
Right.
from 24 down to 15.
It's also limiting the type of housing as well, so it's a detached single-family
Detached.
homes.
Yeah.
Instead of twin or multi or towns or whatever. The last time I think it came through, wasn't it townhomes? I think it was townhomes. So again, so a development agreement,
Improvements, but
yeah. And sometimes, so to me, that's what, yeah, we're not getting a park or a trail system or anything out of it, but it would be a restriction on that.
And that
And I
can
think the
be
last
okay.
time the big concern was the amount of cars that would come through with whatever it was, 38 homes or what have you, or whatever the amount of.
24, would have been 24.
24. So I see this kind of evolving better. It's getting a little bit better every time, right? As far as density goes.
right. Well,
But
and
we'll talk
design
about that.
probably, too.
Yeah, and again, I know where you're talking about is my favorite example of what we don't want is right there behind there was going to be a dental office on 3rd and
It was never going to be a
138.
dental office. But
well, that's
someone
what they were
wanted
trying to
it when-
push it through as dental office. Say, oh no, we don't want the dental office, right? But now we've got literally
Yeah.
a 3-foot,
Yeah.
6-foot
setbacks.
gap between two homes there, and it is really super high density and right up to the street. I think we had one
Yeah.
homeowner saying that they are welcoming a stoplight there or something because they just get people racing. Anyway, whatever. I digress, but that's what happens. Yeah, so that's why we're worried about the high density, and as well as the homes being barely single family, just with a piece of air between the two and two separate walls. Anything you'd like to add as the architect that you think that we need to know? Because we'll open this up for public hearing and then we'll discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess regarding the setbacks between homes, we're not really modifying those from the standard city ordinance. Some of those setbacks that were modified are more as they're relating to the public street and whatnot. And especially that, I guess you'd consider it a flag lot. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of really restrictions on that, so there's some modifications from that. But for the most part, the distance between homes would be per standard city ordinance, if not better.
I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer. I'm just curious if the applicant engaged with the neighborhood at all in coming up with this development plan.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
If he had like a neighborhood meeting or something like that, is that what you're
Yeah, or
asking?
go to house, or do you know?
Yeah, I
'Cause
don't know about
they've
that.
come before us before, and so we've heard public comment over and over. So
Sure.
maybe from that they've gleaned things. But Nick, do you know?
For this particular time coming back, I am unaware if he did or not.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
I have a couple comments or questions. At the last meeting, well, a year ago, a lot of our concerns was, does this change the general character of the neighborhood? And a lot of us had kind of the opinion of going more with the R4, I think it was, zoning, more along that lines. But I have to agree with Mary's comment about what is the city getting out of this proposal. If you can go to that concept plan, it does show the park on lot 15, which is pointless because the development agreement spells out that could eventually go to a single family. So to me, that's kind of deceptive. You know, it's like, okay, let's call it what it's going to be. So what would the city be getting out of it? The criteria, I was reading the criteria for a development agreement, and one of the, item number 4, so it's page 7 of this staff report. Let's see. It says a development agreement, so it needs to meet this criteria, and it lists all the criteria. Then it says that the city has to include the development agreement with the city to have as a whole, including but not limited to assurances of design standards, dedication of improvement and open space, parks, trails, amenities, or infrastructure such as rights-of-ways or utilities. So if the park is not going to be there, it doesn't meet that criteria. It doesn't meet open space. And not only that, but the public rights-of-ways, this proposal is requesting to encroach in the public right-of-way with the driveways for lots 10, 11, and I would assume 15 also.
Yep.
And that just to me seems kind of contrary to what the goal should be. So that's just kind of a comment that I'm kind of concerned about.
That's a good point, Susan. So what we're looking at right here, is this the only way that obviously, so just to prep the public tonight what this is all about. So this is our dry run tonight. If you've been to one of these meetings before, we give a positive or negative recommendation to the city council, and then they ultimately decide. So the question I have then is, what we're looking at right here, is this this is not the final say-so on how this can be laid out. This is strictly just giving guidelines as far as lot sizes and quantity.
Well, I mean, going off of the agreement, it would seem that this would be...
That this would be it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know what I'm getting at here. This is why I'm asking. So for us to just say, hey, conditions of this that would give a recommendation one way or the other, we can give requests or changes, because, I mean, what you just said right there, Susan, is you could flip lot 10 and lot 15. Well, you couldn't even flip lot 15 without coming out of the public access, but you could definitely flip lot 10 to driveway into the neighborhood, right? Instead of out into the...
Or something, because to me, to come to a city with a new project, to me, a new project should meet all the code, period. But development agreement does allow some flexibility for that. But something that I have a hard time with is giving a private property development the right to encroach on the city right-of-way. They should meet that. I mean, especially when one of the criteria to approve a development agreement says that it will provide infrastructure and public rights-of-ways or utilities. Well, it is, but then they're asking us to encroach on it. I just have a hard time with that. 5 feet. To me, it's like, no, shift everything 5 feet to the west or whatever, reduce the rear yard setbacks for lots 1 through 5 so that 10, 11, and 15 can have at least an 18-foot driveway on their property. So it's not.
It looks like it's a 20-foot driveway.
It is, but 5 of that is in the city right-of-way. That's what I'm saying.
No,
So,
I thought it looks like it's measuring from the house to the sidewalk, not across the rest of the driveway.
no, it's even in the
No,
development
she-
agreement.
she's-
It's
if I
15
can
feet.
And it's 15
say
feet.
What-
something.
Those
I'll
are
let-
15.
And
What's
unless
the
everybody
architect
drives a
say?
Mini Cooper, that just does not work.
Susan is correct. On those, like specifically on lot 10 and 11, the driveway is 20 feet measured to the sidewalk, but 5 feet if that is technically in the right-of-way. Part of the reason for that is we're trying to get enough lot size so that we can have the potential for more Rambler plans. So anytime we could reduce the setback somewhere else if you were open to that. Otherwise, if we'd reduce the setback or maintain the same setbacks for those lots, it would force a smaller footprint of a home, which would mean taller.
Yeah.
So maybe that's, so again, if it doesn't work out, maybe there's too many lots. I mean, I don't know, maybe back to the drawing board. I mean, you could reduce the rear setbacks for lots 1 through 5 from 20 feet to 15, but does that actually shift 5 feet to the west? I don't know. I just have an issue with that encroaching into the public right-of-way with a new project.
See, and I like to hear the insight from the architect, because the last thing somebody wants to do with their land is ruin it. And the last thing a developer wants to do is build stuff that nobody wants.
True.
They really just are not here. Believe it or not, the city is not here to keep developers from ruining their land, you know. And so what I'm looking at here is, yes, they put their head to this 3-4 times now. The density's getting lighter and lighter. And I'm looking at this saying, yes, that explanation right there makes sense to me, because yes, you could satisfy that requirement at the expense of the other lot sizes or the whole development size, or get rid of some other lots. And again, they put their time into this and effort into this, but I'm serious. Like, sometimes I really think that some of that stuff, the development agreement, is the way to say, hey, how can we satiate what the city would normally want? How can we make it pencil? Because they've got to make it pencil so that it's profitable. And how do we make sure that it fits in with everything else? Because there's really not a fit for these 15 lots here with a zone, right? The only way, it's either going to be this or 4 houses, right? I mean, well, 8.
10 or 8 or 12,
Okay.
who knows?
So see the big cutoff there. So that's a huge difference between 15 and 8, right? It's almost
Sure.
It's half.
But 12.
So anyway, so that's I appreciate that input, that we're just trying to say, hey, well, yes, you could slide it all over that way, and
I mean, it sounds
and all
easy
these
in
lots would
theory,
be
but,
smaller.
you
Yeah.
know, I don't know. I just know that a 15-foot front step, their driveway, unless you all drive Mini Coopers, that does not work. They'll be hanging out into the right-of-way, which, you know.
Yeah, it's a point. I mean, you're not supposed to park a car with it hanging on the sidewalk, period.
Sure.
I found out the hard way with some kids one time that was a citable offense.
Well, even the project that
Yeah.
just to the north and east that Lisa asked about, when I drove over there, I don't want to point fingers, but their driveways, I think, are about 15 feet, and that was exactly the scenario. There was a van parked in front of the garage, angled and still hanging into the driveway, or
the sidewalk.
a couple of feet, and it was on a 45-degree angle because it can't fit in the driveway,
Which is why we have minimums.
which is why we have minimums.
And it
Yeah.
pushes people out onto the street. I mean, there are all sorts of problems.
Right. I mean,
But
again,
I totally agree.
That's a little detailed, whatever, but that is something that I personally am kind of concerned about. So enough of that. We don't
It's a
want to
good
beat
point.
a dead horse.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Good catch there, Susan. All right. Anything else for us?
Not unless you have anything for me.
Okay, we'll invite you back up after public comment if we need
Okay.
to, okay? Thank you
Sounds
so
good.
much.
Yep, thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. Some of you may have been to one of these, but I'll give you the rules and the guidelines. So we'll give anybody the chance to come up and speak for 3 minutes. We don't, you don't need to fill the full 3 minutes, but we just ask you don't go over. If there's multiple, topics that are being repeated, you're welcome to abstain but it's your call. And then just to put in there's no clapping. It's not a pep rally, even though we're a pretty peppy bunch. But just no clapping or cheering, even though there might be some great comments. So anyway, I just add that. So with that, we'll go ahead and open up the public comment portion of this agenda item. Who would like to address this agenda item? It's kind of like the Price is Right. You just come on down and get your 3 minutes. And one other guideline, just state your name. Thanks.
Hello, Dave Hansen. Yes, we've been here a couple of times. This is getting better, but honestly, from my perspective, and I believe from the neighborhood's perspective, we would like to see no change in the zoning if possible. We know that Troy has, when he acquired the property, he knew the zoning. We understand that this is a developer who wants to make his development and build. I'm not against him developing. I just don't want to see a zone change just for his profit. He's not planning on acquiring and living on the property. It's where we live. And we've had a lot of input, and we are vocal. We're not wanting to see the change to the zoning to allow higher density, more properties. And Troy did not reach out to me when he made this plan. I knew that question came up. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Hello again.
Hi there.
I'm Kimberly Henry, resident of this neighborhood. I was listening online as we were driving in here, so the question came up, did Troy talk to the neighbors about this plan? No, he has not talked to us about this plan. It's similar to one that he had presented before, but with more, including the park on the corner. My biggest concern is if you guys want to approve a development, don't change the zoning. because you start to change the zoning, and that has a waterfall effect for the rest of the properties. And that just, every property that's going to come up for sale is going to come back here and ask for a zoning change and a zoning change. And with our home, we built 12 years ago, and we were told that this is the zone. It's not going to change. This is what the plan is. And so this is a change of philosophy. And we understand that with the projects around the train station, that we do need to have more high-density housing. And EDGE came in last time and said that they were going to cover a lot of that. There's 300-plus homes that are going to go right down the street from us, not even half a mile. So this is a lot better than it has been. It's better than the commercial plan, and it's better than the full high-density. If you choose to move forward with something like this, if it can be done strictly on a developer agreement and not change the zone so it doesn't impact the rest of the properties going forward, that would be something that I would ask for. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jim Duncan. I'm in the corner lot right there back. So a couple of things that I just wanted to point out. I took a drone and put a drone in the closest corner of tracks there on the street and came to that back corner, and it is 4.935. So I don't know where they're saying that it encompasses half of that, because it doesn't. And I don't know if that's as the crow flies, because if I step it, it's over the half mile. Second thing is that the telephone poles, there's going down 8th East there, they're 32 and a half feet tall. Have you ever stood underneath the telephone pole and looked up? I don't know where they're coming up with 35 feet. But the telephone poles there, we marked a line at 31 and a half feet. Excuse me, it was 31 foot, and there was only a foot and a half left. So we're 32 and a half feet. Troy originally mentioned that we would be 32 foot, possibly. So single-family dwelling home that's not a two-story, how do we get 35 feet? Because the businesses across 8th East, or across the 122nd here, the businesses on that other side, they're not even close to 30 feet. So I'm not sure how we can have housing. So, I mean, I know I've had to accept the fact that I'm going to lose my sight of the mountains, but to be looking up in my backyard 35 feet up, that's a little bit ridiculous. Just me. Another thing is that Troy has been in contact with me, so I have to speak up for Troy. He has talked to me many times. He has asked me some questions. I've explained to him my concerns, so he has tried to work with me, and it's my fault because I have talked with most of the neighbors close around and explained the height, the number of houses that he was going to do, and the fact that he was going to keep it a single level with the basement is what he said he would do, but he wanted to have the opportunity to have a small loft up above the garage. That still does not require 35 feet. So those are my concerns. And
Thank you.
It. So thanks.
Thank you. All right, I'm taking some notes here because there's always some questions. So anyone else?
Yeah, my name's Jerry Thomas. I live in the house directly east. And the 35-foot thing, my house is 2 stories, and it's not 35 feet. It's 20, maybe 22 feet. And I'm wondering if that 35 feet is the peak of the roof, or is that the top of the dwelling ceiling. Do you know that?
Like it says, not a back and forth, but I'll note your question and we'll answer it later.
Okay. Also, like she pointed out, his driveway is encroaching on your right-of-way. Is that correct? Because my lot ends 30 feet, I think, from the center line of 8th East, maybe 20 feet. But that's a lot of property you guys have to widen the road. Certainly at some time it will be widened because it always happens. So my concern is the height. I appreciate that Troy has backed off of the 24-unit thing, but still, he could put 8 homes in there on the 2-acre lots and make a lot of money. And we would only have 10 vehicles to deal with instead of 25 coming in and out of that subdivision. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi. Sorry about that. I'm Cindy Romero. I live west of, I have, well, my house should be showing up there. The traffic, if you guys have ever tried to get out on 122 and 7th, and the 2 cars per unit, where they can put them. I had owned the property at Parkstone, a gated community. There wasn't parking there. You know, if you had kids, teenagers or what, where are they going to park at it? You know, that's just not acceptable. And the traffic and the spot zoning too. I've lived in that house for 50 some odd years. And I am commercial if and when I want to be, but I'm not going to be. I'm going to stay there till I die. And I've got 6 little kids under 10 living in my house. And I just don't want to deal with, it's so crowded. And no offense to Troy, but I don't quite trust him. But those are small houses, and they need to be detached, and they do not need to be that tall. I have I have a 1-story up to a 2-story, and mine's only like 24 feet. So all I'm saying is, and I don't think it should be that many homes. I think it should be down more in the 12 to 14 range. When Troy bought it, he knew he was buying into half-acre lots. He was under the assumption he could zone it however. He's a developer, you know, that's what they do. But as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't need to be rezoned, and it needs to be kept, I'd say about 12 houses. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Ralph Broderick. I live at 626 East, 12100 South. I don't live here, but I have property a half a block from where Troy is building this development. I have more property than he does. And I don't want a disaster like this on my property. When I develop my property, I want to put half acres in to keep the neighborhood as it is. These people that live here have lived here a long time. They lived here for Draper for a particular reason. And this is going everything against what they were told when they first moved here to Draper. You city council members are not going to get in trouble with Governor Cox if you downsize this project. I guarantee you. My property is closer to the track station than Troy's is, and so I'm hoping that I don't have a problem with the city council telling me that I have to develop mine property into high density. 35 feet is pretty tall, like is mentioned before. Most of these houses you see around here are pretty low. They're single story. And if they're two-story, they're pretty low. They're not 35 feet tall. So this is going to look like a big tower in a two square block on the corner. That's going to be a disaster to look at the neighborhood. Anyway, consider that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, anyone else before we close up public comment? We'll do last call on there. Okay. All right, seeing none. Oh, go ahead. You're a polite bunch, so.
Still thinking. I'm Lois Duncan, and I just live where those red trees are right there. So my 2 bedrooms will be looking up to this development. And so that, to me, kind of is an invasion of privacy there a little bit. I'm not opposed to that if it's 1 story and not looking down into my home. I feel that's just an invasion. And the other thing is I was trying to leave to go to a meeting, and they had the accident on the freeway. And so the traffic, it all scattered like ants. Everybody was trying to get home, and there was backed up here, backed up there, backed up here, backed up there. And to me, I thought, I'll wait and wait and wait. And finally, I was able to get out, but not because anybody let me out, but they were going really fast on 800 East, really fast. And this is a place where people walk their dogs. This is a place where people have animals outside that, aren't in the street, occasionally maybe, but not to be, careless or anything. And if there's high density, it's just going to cause more traffic. And where are people going to walk for peace? Where are they going to walk for their sanity? I just feel like I guess I'm just not ready for a change of this nature. I'm still trying to get used to what's going in west of the tracks on Kimball's Lane or back in on 119. I'm still trying to focus on how are we going to deal with that. And then this came along, and it's just overwhelming to me. That's all I can tell you. But thanks for listening to me.
Thank you. All right. That looks to be it. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion of this agenda item. All right, a couple quick questions were brought up, so I'm just going to pose these to staff real quickly. And then, actually, before I go through my questions, we'll invite the applicant back up or the architect. Is there anything that you want to talk to about that? Well, let me ask my question about the height first, and then we'll maybe have you up. So who do you want me to ask this to? Nick? Okay, Nick, so if this stays as it is right now, RA2, what's allowed? With 2 acres, it would be 4 homes, correct?
Yes, that would be correct.
With 2 acres, so, or 8?
So, hold on. So it would be 2 acres, yeah, it would be 4 homes. Because it's half acre homes.
Yeah.
Or half acre lots. Sorry.
But with infrastructure, you've got about 25% out of that. So in reality, maybe it wouldn't be 4, would it? Would it be more 3?
I mean, if we're just going strictly off of the size of the property, it could get 4 lots on it. And once you get the road in there and everything else, that could change. But in terms of size, it could.
But in theory, he could just do 4 lots with every driveway shooting out onto the municipal streets, and that's it. That's what they would do, just 4 backyards. Okay. What's the height allowed in RA2?
Actually, it's higher than what's being proposed. Oh, wait. No, I'm sorry. I have that wrong.
It's 35 feet
35
height
feet.
in all of our residential zones.
Correct. So my Ivory neighborhood that I live in, those are all 35-foot homes. And it's up to the pitch. It's not to the top of my highest 2-story
so
window.
it's the average finished grade to the midpoint and the peak.
Yeah, it's just that 35 is what we've always heard. Now, what we're, when I want a red balloon up is when we want a 99-foot sign for a gas station, right? That's when I want to see it. red balloon flown up there, but 35 feet. So right now, you could build 4 homes with 35-foot height on every one of those 4 homes, correct? Okay, because the height has been brought up this time, and the other 3 times I didn't hear really peep about it. So I just think because that was read in, that caught everybody's attention. These could be 35 feet high since day one, and without a zone change.
Well, and I'll point out, too, that in the way that our code is written, it's to the midpoint, 35 feet to the midpoint, so technically it can actually go higher than 35 feet.
Yeah, so if the pitch is kind of the average of the pitch, if it's one of these hipped roofs, it could be higher than 35 technically, right?
And as he spelled out in his agreement, it terminates at 35.
35. So these will be, and I've also heard, too, and you always hear this, trust me, said the developer. I'm not saying that's what's being said here. They're trying to put ramblers on some of these, and if the lot's too small, you just have to go vertical, like in my favorite example over on 138th and 3rd. Okay, so that's if it stays the way it does now, okay? So let me ask this. It's commercial right next to it right here. There's another one. Can you go to Exhibit D real quickly on the staff report? It's the aerial map of the land use. Okay, up there where it's 12085 south, what's that, where it says residential high density?
What's that in terms of the
Yeah,
development?
those are the townhomes up there, okay? So those can also go up to 35 feet, right? Those would all be 35 feet. So I think the last proposal with townhomes would have mimicked that more than what we're looking at here. So what I'm seeing right here is a hybrid of what's already been put into place, and I didn't go to a planning zoning class. I'm just a regular citizen up here volunteering my time. But I've always heard, hey, you want to kind of feather. You want to go from heavy commercial to light commercial, which is what neighborhood commercial is. Then you want to go to high density, medium density, low density. Well, we have no feathering right here. So if you're going to ask me to pay $2 million for one of these 4 houses that are sitting on a half an acre, but my backyard neighbor is neighborhood commercial, that's not cool to me. So again, I'm not defending the developer, but they don't want to ruin their land. And in my opinion, in my experience, to put a $2 million house there, because that's what you'd have to charge with your lot, with your price of dirt and Draper right now, you'd have a $1.6, $1.8 million home slammed right in next to neighborhood commercial. I'm not buying that. So again, this product that we're seeing right here, I'm not really interested in that radius anymore. That's why I brought it up. It's not that that's just a free shoe-in, right, Jennifer? I mean, that was the point. It's not just because the state said that we all have to say the city isn't brought to doesn't need to take a knee and say you're right. That's what we need to do here. So that's why I brought that up. So the next point is that for this piece, it's going to get developed. If it stays right now, you're going to have 4 homes in there that are 35 feet high and $2 million each. So, and I haven't penciled it out, but you probably make the same amount of money. So, just in my experience, I've seen how. I mean, we've seen these neighborhoods go in. We were going. I've been up here since 2012. I'm not going to pontificate on what I've seen, but it has given some insight. And what I do see is I see these getting a little bit. There's always no, and then what goes in is actually worse because it meets what the public clamor is, or it meets what there's not any flexibility to say, can we do a development agreement, because none of these zones really fit the highest and best use of this. So I don't like to see developments that are ruined, and in my experience, some of these have been just, and by ruined, I mean you don't realize that your truck won't fit in the driveway till you've closed and you've lived there for a week, and you're like, what the heck? This is horrible, right? And then they say, well, why didn't the city catch it? Oh, well, they should have caught it, but nevertheless.
Or they let it happen.
Great. I've now signed the mortgage, and I get to park my truck slanted on my driveway for all time. So anyway, I just want to point out that if we don't change anything, that's what you can do here. And as far as what we've already got, we've got townhomes up there, and if you look at those townhomes, no offense if you live in there, but this development to me is a better development than that townhome development up there to live in. And it's I don't get a vote, but in my experience, that's just going to be a better place to live with people that have. Are these 2-car? Well, let's invite the architect back up just real quick, so we can get you. And then you can maybe ask, are these 1-car garages, 2-car garages? Because these homes have garages. Is that what the intent is?
They would all have 2-car garages.
And you're doing that not because the city's forcing you, because that's what the customer wants. So a two-car garage. So two-car garage homes, some of these townhomes, they have a two-car garage hole, but nothing fits in there. That's the opening. The opening is two-car garage. So again, looking at what we've been through with 3 of these, this is now the 4th, as I recall. I keep hearing it's getting better, and I'd hate to see it turn for the worse. Not that he's going to do this, but sometimes when people get frustrated with their land, they just kick their heels in and throw a rehab center in, right? Because you can't stop them. That's it. Just throw a rehab center in, extended care center. So anyway, I don't get a vote, but what I'm seeing right here, I do have a little bit issue with lot 10, 11, and 15. I agree. 15 is going to be a house because there's nothing in this that says it won't be. And then it almost looks like if you wanted to keep everything inside the community, lots 10 and 11 would need to turn into one lot with the driveway pointing out. Or, because Susan, your issue isn't that the driveway is exiting out onto 122, right? That's not against any of our code.
Or 800.
800
it's
or
a condition,
120.
though, of the development agreement.
That they're being allowed to do that.
No, that they need to
It's
do
the
that.
encroachment.
Right. But my point is, the development agreement is requiring those homes to be facing 800 east, not allowing them. It's requiring them.
Okay, and do you feel that that's good or bad?
I don't have an opinion either way about that unless we're talking about issues with the driveway length.
Yeah.
That's really my only issue. But it's just, I think the idea of having that in the development agreement, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, was to not make it a totally closed-in community where all the homes are facing each other. There's some that's how it read to me.
Which is good planning practice for a neighborhood. If we live in neighborhoods that if the 800 had just more of these homes on the other side, that would be totally acceptable, right? You just pull out into the nice big street and be on your way. So just some things to point out. If it stays the way it is with 4 lots, the height, I just wanted to dip that because I haven't heard with that veracity yet to this point. And 35 feet, being limited to 35 feet at the peak is also another concession. What's the city getting? They're getting lower height.
Well, the whole point, though, and you can probably sit down. You don't have to stand up there if you don't want to. Yeah. The whole point, though, is they're getting this zone that would have allowed a higher height and then pulling it back to make it a residential height. So they're getting the zone so that they can have higher density, but the city's saying we don't want the height. My point is, if you go back to that picture, instead of having maybe, facing each direction, 2 homes, you've now got 5 that are giant right up against the property line. Inevitably, if somebody is building on half an acre, there might be one side where it's on the property line, but here we've got, multiple homes that are that high. And I read that development agreement, and I noticed it said once cottage-style homes. And I have a really clear picture in my head when I think about a cottage-style home or a small variety. And 35 feet, I don't know that fits into my idea of cottage. And when I think about cottage homes on this lot, I think that's a really great idea. I do, because they're probably smaller in scale, but there is no guarantee, and that's my issue. There's no guarantee in this development agreement that they will be smaller in scale, aside from obviously the lot size and the setbacks. But I do think it's kind of an encroachment on the feel of the neighborhood, and like this one to the east, this one lot, it may be zoned neighborhood commercial, but there is a single family home there, and I believe we heard from the homeowner tonight. And I'm all for the feathering and the, being smart about planning, and I like this idea. I do. We've come a long way. But I would like to respond to it's going to get worse. I hate that. It only gets worse if city council approves worse. Like, that's on them. And nobody is coming in here saying we have to approve anything or
Mary, the only
recommend
reason I
anything.
bring that up is because you cannot stop a rehab center. My microphone cut out right there. You cannot stop a rehab center. It's going in.
Well, in a single, but it still is subject to the zoning.
I agree.
Of a single.
I won't argue that out with you, but
family.
that's
Right.
and it's not that it has to get worse. It's getting better and better.
It is, and I'm.
Yeah.
I think we were
and
on there
yeah.
going in the right direction, and I think this has potential, but I'm not convinced it's there yet, and that's just.
Where would it be? Like what?
I'm not.
So
I'm not going there.
Yeah. So the applicant can just be there because all we're hearing is we're saying, well, the developer wants to develop. They've applied 3-4 times. This lot keeps coming back to us, and all we hear is, well, it's not quite there yet. But it is there because it sounds like what's acceptable and allowed is pretty much the only thing that's not going to get any public clamor until they build a 35+ height.
Well, I appreciate the development agreement, number one.
Yeah.
That's really
Does
a
limit
benefit
it.
to the neighborhood if there's a development agreement, because it will lock in the developer to things. So I appreciate that, but I think maybe 8 homes is a better in this slot, or in this plot, instead of the 15.
I think he's got a good design. I kind of like it. But 8, I don't know, 12, easy. Get rid of 10, 11, 15. You got 12, and then all of the lots can be a little bigger. Don't have to encroach on the public right away. It's not for us as a commission to design their project, but I think we could say this as far as what it's worth, what our opinions are. I mean, I see 12 easy.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem
Well, that's
with
why I
that
ask.
if
I
they
mean,
meet.
what we've got here in front of us is it's just a pass-fail, right? I mean, we're looking
Yeah.
at, hey, the way what's been presented here, that they've worked with the planners over and over again with, has now been brought to us again for a pass-fail. We don't even get to the final say-so. This goes on to the city council, and then they give it a yes or no. So, I mean, as far as a pass-fail, we don't get to
Can I make a
chop
recommendation?
this all up. Yeah.
When you make your motion, whether it's to forward a positive recommendation or whether it's to forward a negative recommendation, include in that motion things that you would recommend the council look at. If you're concerned about driveway width and home size or building height, put that in your motion.
Well, and I understand what you're saying. We've had this conversation before. My issue is I'm not going to say I give this a positive recommendation with a laundry list of changes. I would rather just vote no.
And it could be a negative recommendation, and your motion is you have a negative recommendation because the agreement doesn't discuss these items.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
I want to make one other comment on the 35-foot height. That's, as Jen said, that is standard residential height.
Totally
and that's
standard.
not just Draper. That's probably
You see it everywhere.
valley-wide.
Every neighborhood we're driving through is going to have that 30.
That doesn't mean that a two-story house is going to be 35 feet. And in addition to that, there's no such thing as protecting someone's view. If you want to protect your view of the mountains or whatever, you need to buy the property next to you. It's the only way to do it.
Right.
Because the development is going to happen eventually.
So let's talk about some of the things that we're disliking, so we enumerate them.
Okay.
My first question or concern is that the park is not mentioned in the development agreement as a park.
Right.
It is, but it says it could be converted into a
Right.
Yeah.
No,
right.
we want assurance. If they're going to have a park, we want assurances. If they're going to do a park, we want assurances that it's a park.
So that it remains a park. Is that what you?
Yeah.
So that would limit the number of lots then to 14 instead of 15.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're saying that we think 14 is too many.
Well, that's my opinion.
I think 15 is too many. I think, in my opinion, get rid of 10, 11, and 15, and then you've got bigger setbacks that meet the code. There's no
So the
encroachment.
driveway length and encroachment is the next problem.
Well, that's one of them, and then.
So are you writing this down?
Yeah, I've got.
Write it down.
I've got the park.
And then
I'm hoping you guys are putting like a Y because
Driveways.
as we're just going to hack up the architect's job here, Help me understand why, because I'm saying if you just feel better about having 12 lots instead of 15, help the applicant understand why. Does the driveway face a different way? Does lot 10 start facing north?
The problem.
Lot 11 face south now? I mean, why? Why? When you guys
That's not our job, though. And ultimately, these get really heavily negotiated with city council, and I think we all know that. And so, honestly, in the end, I think we can give general feedback, but I think getting into the nitty-gritty is not a good use of our time.
Well, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing with suggestions.
We're talking about the length of the driveway. So
Right.
the number of homes is a problem because the driveways have to be shortened, and that's a really poor quality development
In
or
part,
building
that's, yes.
for a resident.
Okay, so driveway length.
Yeah.
Driveway length. So it's not even the amount of lots, it's just driveway length?
Well, I think that's part of it. I think driveway length needs to be minimum 18 feet, preferably 20, but minimum 18.
Aren't we seeing 20
just-
feet though, Susan? Am I not seeing 20?
Some of
Yeah, they're all.
Which
yeah.
one's not 20?
It's specifically,
It's just 10 and 11.
the development agreement specifically calls out that lots 10, 11, and 15 will have the 15 feet.
15 feet to the well, okay. Not to the sidewalk, but to the access, to this setback.
Including 15 if they made a building.
Yeah, okay. So driveway length on 10, 11, and lot 15.
And that's with a 10-foot rear yard setback, which is about as small as you can
And
get.
I think that's a fair statement than saying we just feel better about 3 less lots. So because that's a reason why, because those 3 lots have problematic driveways.
Yes, right.
Fair?
Fair.
Okay. Well, commissioners, that's what we got to do is a positive or negative recommendation. Just like I said, it's just I'm only fishing for feedback so the applicant and the planners can hear what it is. I mean, that's what we're up here supposed to be doing is to say, hey, this is why we're not what the problems are, and so that they can just fix them. And whether they do that between now and the next meeting or not, we'll see. But it's worth a shot. So just to give them some feedback. Anything else? Anyone want to make a motion?
I think also that does it meet the criteria for approving a development agreement? If you review the criteria, which is 10, there's 10 separate listed. If we have all reviewed those and feel that this proposal meets that, well, then that's one thing. But in my opinion, it doesn't. And specifically number 4, and I referred to that earlier.
Are you looking on the,
It's,
on the development agreement, page 7?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then we also have findings for approval and findings for denial that kind of generally wrap into those.
Well, here's the challenge. Do we approve the land use and the zoning, but not the? I mean, I can't do that because then it opens it up to whatever the developer wants.
Right. Yeah.
So how do we refuse the zoning then? On what basis?
Well, we kind of, in my opinion, in this particular request, they go hand in hand. We do all or.
Well, the zone is, I would say it's definitely not appropriate without a development agreement. It's too dense without it, in my opinion.
Yeah, is that one of our criteria we can use to forward a negative recommendation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, maybe not specifically too dense, but I think inconsistent with the goals or,
Well, and if you look at the minutes from a year ago, which was this same zone request, they didn't have the development agreement, but they did have, it was the same request. Several times in the minutes, several of us expressed concern about it not being appropriate, a high density zoning not being appropriate for this particular property based on the surrounding area and the existing land use and general plan. This is much better. I'm actually like this pretty well, except for a few things that I've
Yeah, I'm looking at this. So we always have, the state's trying to push everybody into something that's almost impossible, which is affordable housing. And I know smaller homes are going to sell for less, period. That's it. So if you want this more affordable, if you don't build more neighborhoods like this in Draper, if not here, then where? Because I think this is the type of development that Draper needs more of, We have plenty of the townhomes. We have plenty of the McMansions sitting on a full acre. And then we have our fair share of the flag lot, which is the state bird of Draper, right, where you've got an old house in the front and a $3 million house in the back, and you access it through the pig farm of the front yard owner's, driveway. So in my opinion, this is what Draper needs more of, and if not here, where? Because we don't need any more stack houses. We've got those on the other side of I-15. We don't need any more of those townhome developments up there because the land's just too valuable. So, and it's too high density. Everybody complains about that, right? That's the problem of all our traffic are those townhome developments, I guess. But so if not here, where? And this type of development, I think, is exactly the happy medium between, hey, we need affordability and people want to live in Draper. I mean, my kids can't live in Draper. They can't. They don't. And so with something like this, it's getting closer.
Yeah.
So
I agree 100% with what you just said, Andrew.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a negative motion then for the land use.
Yeah, it'll just be the same on all of them, right?
Well, they're all separate. Don't we have to do them separately?
Yes, but yeah.
Okay, I move that we forward a negative recommendation to the City Council for the land use map amendment as requested by Troy Dana, application 2025-0014-MA, based on the findings for denial listed in the staff report dated February 24, 2026. Specifically that the land use amendment is not harmonious with the overall character of existing development in the vicinity of the subject property, and it will adversely affect adjacent property.
Perfect. So that's our motion from Lisa, who will second that.
I'll second it, but also with all the concerns that we expressed previously. And I don't want to state that in the motion, but
okay, you could listen to the recording.
I think we need a dead horse over that.
I think
the concern being the length of the driveways, particularly.
And that probably falls more under the development agreement.
Yeah. So we'll just leave that. Should we just leave that motion the way Susan seconded it? So let's put this one to a vote. This is for the land use. So Lisa, how do you vote?
Yes, for the negative recommendation.
Negative recommendation, yes. And now Susan?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
And Laura?
No.
Okay. All right, next. Zoning map.
I'll take that one.
Perfect.
Sorry, we need to get 50. I got it. Thought I was there. I move we forward a negative recommendation to the City Council for denial of the zoning map amendment as requested by Troy Dana, application 2025-0013-MA, based on the following findings for denial as in the staff report dated February 24th, 2026, and specifically number 1, 2, and 3. Numbers 1, 2, and 3.
Got it. That motion is from Mary. Who will second that?
I'll second it.
Second from Susan. Okay, so Mary, let's put this to a vote. Negative recommendation with your findings there?
Yes.
On the zoning map?
Oh.
How do you vote?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, and then Susan?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
And Laura?
No.
Okay. All right, let's move on now to the development agreement.
I'll make a motion on that one.
Perfect, go ahead.
I move that we forward a negative recommendation to the City Council for the development agreement as requested by Troy Dana, application 2025-0299DA, based on the following findings for denial listed in the staff report dated February 24th, 2025, and the concerns that we expressed earlier.
Thank you, Susan. Who will second it?
I'll second.
Oh, sorry. I'll let Christine.
We'll let Christine do it down there. It's been quiet down there. So, all right, Christine. Christine seconded that, so let's go ahead. Susan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
And Laura?
No.
Okay. All right, so that's going to move forward that way, and the next time this will come up is at a city council meeting. Those are always on Tuesdays, so you can watch the calendar for that or the notice. I think they put that on the signs there too. But either way, you guys know the drill, so thanks for coming in. Let's move on to our next public hearing. It's the Juan Diego text amendment request. It's on the request of Joe Colosimo, representing Skaggs Catholic Center, LLC, a request for approving of a zoning text amendment to Table 9-10-090, Draper City Municipal Code. The purpose of the request is to allow private schools as a conditional use in all residential zones known as application 2026-0006-TA. And I don't see Mary Ann, so Jen, are you filling in?
It's me, yeah.
Okay. See how I caught that? It's pretty good,
Yes.
even though it's late. Got it.
So before you is a text amendment to change allowed uses within residential zones. Your staff report is showing adding private school as a conditional use permit to all of the residential zones. And I've got the public schools, charter schools listed as well, so you can just see how we treat public schools. Now, public schools are different under state law. We don't have a choice but to allow them. I want to go over some potential changes since the staff report went out for you guys to look at, potentially include in a recommendation to the City Council. As we continued looking at this application, looking at potential changes that we can do, having it be conditional only in the R3 zone, but also allowing it only as a small-scale ancillary use to existing schools, private schools. That allows an existing private school to expand, offer more options, that kind of thing, without allowing for a full, brand-new, large-scale school to come in.
But it's conditional use anyway. So who is it approved by? It's us, isn't it? Or,
yes.
Or are we recommending to the City Council? If it's
So the text amendment tonight you'll be recommending, and then if council approves the text amendment, then any conditional use permits will come before you guys. That'll allow you guys to look at lighting, parking, traffic, hours of operation, things like that.
So I'm not clear on why you're just recommending R3. Can you further explain that to me again?
So the applicant is a private school. The property that they are hoping to expand into is in the R3 zone.
So when I first looked at this, it looked like, well, it was a change for any private school in any residential zone.
Correct.
And so this is limiting it to allow for this particular project, basically, that is being anticipated right now.
Yeah. Well,
and others that
it
meet
wouldn't
the
be
same
specifically
criteria.
for this, but it would limit it to the R3 zone. And if you look at the footnote, limit it to property that's 1 acre in size, and it does have to be ancillary to an existing school. So there are other private schools that could expand under this if the property is R3. This would work for them. If it's not, then maybe they would come in with another text amendment.
Well, and it addresses most of my concerns that we're large scale and making this a change for anyone and everyone. So I like this change. I think that's a really positive development.
So now this wasn't in the staff report, so you guys will need, when you make your recommendation, you'll need to say, recommending subject to these changes.
Okay.
To just this one for the R3.
Yes.
And this limitation.
This number 5, right?
Oh,
yeah.
This number 5 limited. So when we put our motion forward, why don't you pop the screen back up for us again, just as a reminder.
Okay.
Okay.
Doesn't that get into the, I guess I'm hesitating even asking this, doesn't that kind of get into that gray area where it's kind of arbitrary and capricious, where it's getting down to where it's so we're looking at one specific property or use or business or whatever you want to call it, and I don't know that that's good practice. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we can get a clarification on that.
I'll back that up too with you, Susan. So help me understand. So if an applicant, for example, is just looking at a piece of property and they haven't purchased it yet, but it happens to be R3 zone, why would they just not put that thing under contract and then come in here and try to entitle it into something that does allow private school? a zone that would allow private school just for that one particular case instead of a text amendment? Because I just heard you say, this is what spawned that question, is I heard you say now if another school, let's say Prep Academy or somebody wants to just say, hey, this actually would fit us, but behind us is R4. And they could come in and then also do a text amendment. So, which pretty soon after 4 of those, right, or 6 of those, we're back to what Mary was worried about, that everybody gets to put a private school on any zone.
Yeah, and I think the key is that footnote where we're limiting the size and that it has to be auxiliary to an existing school. So it allows an existing school to expand, but not allow new schools to come in. So a private school currently is not permitted or conditional in any of our residential zones. So any private school we have today that's in a residential zone is legal nonconforming.
So ancillary meaning that it's adjacent, or ancillary meaning that you can get in a bus and drive down the street and
it's part of.
It's a branch location, so it doesn't need to be in proximity. It just needs to be under my name, my LLC. That's an ancillary.
I don't know, is ancillary a defined term in our code?
Is it?
And if it's not, maybe
I
it
don't
should be.
think
It's
it
right.
is.
It's right there.
Fix that.
That's a good point.
Well, I mean, again, I don't know. We'll invite the applicant up, and they can explain this, I guess, a little bit better to me. So those are the questions I have. It's like, look, typically, if you want to do something with a piece of property that doesn't allow it, this is very different than what I've seen in the past. And I'm just curious as to why you guys took that approach, consulting with the applicant instead of saying, hey, go lock it up and then come change the zone.
Well, we can
Don't
still
close on it, but
we can still use the footnote if we allow in all the zones a conditional use. Can't we? I mean, isn't that still?
I'm a little concerned why we're having it. Well, I know that's the request to have it a conditional use, but to me, we've already allowed public schools, charter schools as permitted. To me, kind of to be fair, I guess, maybe private schools should be a permitted use. I'm curious as to why the request was specifically
Because
for
state
conditional.
law requires us to make them permitted.
True.
And we don't want schools anywhere if we can help it, I think, is the idea. Anyway, but the request is not to make it permitted. The request is conditional.
Right.
Yeah. So I like the limitations. I like the changes that have been made. But I think Andrew made a good point, and maybe if ancillary is not a defined term, that it becomes one for purposes of this footnote or whatever number 5 is, and that be clearly defined.
And is there a zone that is just built for schools? So, for example, if I see this R3 and I want to change the zone, what zone would I need to change it to have a private school be conditional? Not even permitted, just a conditional use. Where are conditional uses permitted now for private schools? Where are they a letter C instead of a letter P?
We're gonna.
I'm just testing your
we're gonna
savvy
look in a couple,
here.
couple
Thanks, Jen.
spots.
There we
so
go.
private schools are
So
conditional in our
community commercial.
zones.
Okay.
So in all the commercial zones, except maybe whatever.
So the struggle would be, hey, we want to buy an R3 parcel, and now we're going to ask the neighbors to change it to commercial, just so we can put our school in, and then it's open to whatever else that zone would allow for.
It's not a school though. It's an ancillary use of an existing school. So it's never new. It's never a net new school. That's the whole point of the addition of that language. So what you just said couldn't happen with this language.
Okay.
Isn't the request to add it to all of the zones? It's a conditional private school?
That's the change she said.
So this is the.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
And
With
now it's just being put into
conditional in all
R3.
the residential zones, staff is looking at or suggesting a recommended change that would limit the zones, but also provide some limitations on it.
Got it. And Mary, you're against the all zones because why? You're against
Well, that would
conditional
have
for all?
allowed new private schools as a conditional use in any residential zone. That's a huge change to our zoning code.
Even with the footnote?
Will you just go?
No,
yeah.
no, the
Yeah, yeah.
original.
Will you go back to the?
I know, but
how
if we
it was?
if we keep it the footnote, but conditional in all of these R zones.
Yeah, there you go, Lisa. That's my point.
That's not what the applicant needs, so,
Okay.
and
So
that's
why
not
do
the
it?
recommended change
Okay.
that staff is giving us, so. I just don't see any reason to do that, and if staff is recommending R3 so that it works here, then
I'd like to
I'm on
ask
board
our
with
legal counsel a question then about it. Is it inappropriate for us to limit it just to one zone, even with this footnote?
No. Somebody brought up a point about something being arbitrary and capricious, and arbitrary and capricious is a legal standard generally affiliated with punitive behavior by the governing body. This is a policy consideration. It's a legislative act. You are free to recommend whichever way you want. If you find good policy reasons for limiting this as a conditional use for just the R3 zone, you could add in whatever zones you wanted. You could throw in commercial and industrial and agricultural zones in this if you wanted, as long as there's policy reasons to back up why you're coming up with this recommendation. And of course, City Council is free to take your recommendation and say, nah, we like it the way it was first with conditional use in all of the zones, because it's a legislative act. So I think that we're probably getting a little bit too far into the weeds on this one, because at the end of the day, if we think that there's good policy reasons to support allowing it as a conditional use in just the R3, or if we think that there's good policy reasons to allow it in all of the zones, we can say those things. And Mary, you brought up some pretty poignant points here, that we don't really want to allow schools in all the zones, all the residential zones all over the city. So this limitation actually makes sense as a policy matter.
We've gotten really deep into this, and is it a public hearing?
No, not yet.
Oh.
All right. Thanks.
Don't forget to invite the applicant.
Hey, look, you're just hitting us with this number 5 change now here, so hold on. All right, is the applicant here? Come on down. And there's nothing punitive here, so just so you know. That's why I looked over at you guys. I'm like, there's no punitive anything. If you'll just state your name, too.
Yeah, Joe Colosimo, 11745 South, Taitland Rose Lane, Draper, Utah. Let me just start with a little history. So we bought this property 4 years ago from Jeff Lamb, and we tore it down and planted grass, and now we want to try to fold it into the mission of the school, and we feel like we want to do a greenhouse farm to table kind of a thing and educate the students on where food comes from. And then looking at the current zoning, there was private schools weren't allowed. So I thought we'd come in with Jennifer and we'll change the text in the R3 zone. We like the R3 zone because never's a long time, and if we need to sell it, R3 is probably a good zoning, plus everything around it is complementary, and I didn't think changing it to commercial would fly, and so we're comfortable leaving it in the R3, and we're comfortable with the 5 footnote because it's specific
so
to
specific,
us, right? And so the one site, we can live with all those conditions. And I like the conditional use from your standpoint because parking and lights and all that stuff gives you a little more control versus a permitted use. And like I say, we're comfortable with the conditional use as well. So
See, we should invite him out just about 20 minutes ago, so thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question.
I do have a request. We have 5 students that would like to get up and speak.
They can do it as public hearing. How about we do that?
Yeah, and
But
they swear they're under 3 minutes, so I don't think we need the 5-minute group. And so
Okay, yeah, we're happy to do that. Yeah.
But can I talk?
Eva Wagner, right? Come on up.
Well, here's
Joe,
what
I
we'll
have
do.
a question.
Yeah, Joe, we'll get your question started. Then why don't we have them do that as the public hearing? Would that be okay?
That's great.
Let's just do that because it'll fit right in line with what we've seen with everybody else. You guys okay with that? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but let's get a couple more things from you, and then we'll excuse you, open it up to public hearing, and that's when you guys can shine. Okay.
Perfect.
I'm familiar with your campus, and so where is the land that you've purchased or that you want to build this on exactly?
So it's north of 118th South, and our west entrance dead ends into it. And so,
Oh, thank you.
There it is right there. And so we bought it from Jeff,
Oh.
and his house was old and decrepit, so we tore it down and planted grass. It's kind of turned into the dog park a little bit, so we're trying to plant some vegetables and trees on it. The other thing we're going to try to do is, as a project, try to grow trees for our main campus. We plant about 30 trees a year. And so if we can get some seedlings and
Start your own tree farm there.
That'll be awesome.
little tree farm there.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm just worried about traffic. Watch your students when they cross.
Yeah.
Well,
So, Joe, there would be an actual structure on that property? Just curious. Or is it going to be a garden?
Well, it's going to be a garden. We got a site plan. We're going to start with an Amazon greenhouse, just a 20 by 20 greenhouse, and have some starts in there. And then if something's bigger, we'll probably come back. And I think that's a phase 3 kind of an idea, a greenhouse. But we got some lavender planted up front, some crops, and then some berries along the fence. So most of them are yearly fruits and vegetables, and then some are permanent, like the lavender. And we got some planter beds, but most of it's just going to go in the ground.
Interesting.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for that explanation. All right, so this is a public hearing, as I mentioned before. We'll give everybody that wants to speak up to 3 minutes. You got a nice big red timer over there. So why don't we go ahead and open this up right now to anyone that would like to address this agenda item. That's you, girls. And if you just state your name too, please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ava Wagner. We are here today with our project manager, Mr. Colosimo, and our food and U teacher, Ms. Johnson, and our principal, Ms. Jacobs.
Hi, my name is Riley Logan, and we are all in a class called Food and You, where we learn where our food comes from and substantial gardening practices. Ms. Jacobs and Ms. Johnson have already passed out a graphic with more information about our project as well.
My name is Olive Kiger, and we are all students at St. John the Baptist Middle School. St. John the Baptist Middle School has an enrollment of 352 students in grades 6th through 8th, and the Skaggs campus educates children from 6 weeks old to their senior year.
We purchased the lot on the north side of our campus off of 118th South 4 years ago. We now would like to use the land for a farm-to-table project that allows us to have a hands-on learning program. SJBMS will lead this project, but our whole campus will take part and benefit from our farm-to-table program.
Could you repeat your name?
Elle Breen.
Thank you. And Jen, will you just reset that timer? We'll just let it go.
Hi, I'm back again, and our farm-to-table project has 3 phases. We have already secured a $7,500 grant through Captain Planet Foundations. During our class time, we have already started planting seeds including peppers and lettuce. We hope to begin the first phase this summer with a small vegetable garden for our Food and U class and improving the soil with a cover crop. God asks us to be good stewards of His creation. We can do that by having this area to improve, make beautiful, and with the long-term goal of producing food for our cafeteria.
I'm Ava Wagner, and I have been on the Skaggs Catholic Center campus since I was in pre-K. I would love to see our campus grow our food for lunchroom so all students can take part in this learning experience, whether it's through eating what we grow or having a hands-on experience through our Food and U class or through our home-based classes.
Hi, my name is Camila Morales, and as we close our request, we're reminded of the scripture from Ecclesiastes that reminds us that there is a time or era for all things. We would love your support to help us have the time to plant. Thank you.
Well, if the parents want to clap, I'll allow it.
Okay. That was
We're
great.
not
That was
heartless up
wonderful.
here. We're not. Girls, well done. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. I love it. I think that's great. This is kind of how your cities run. So when you're older and there's nothing on Netflix, you can come down here and watch these in your town where you end up living long term, okay? So thank you. We appreciate that. It's still open for public hearing. Would anyone else like to address this agenda item? Okay, we'll let it stand then. Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. All right, commissioners, my question was answered. Why not change the zone? And it's because one day I'm now seeing right where it is.
Right.
We'll just have to change it right back to R3 and put a nice house on it, and I'm good.
Yeah. I would just say that was the most unfair public comment I've ever received, and I'm not sure how anyone could say no to that. But
Yeah, it was very well done. It was well done.
Hard to
Well done.
resist.
That's why we turned the timer off.
I
We
kid.
just-
I kid.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for a positive recommendation. Anybody else using these alternative text? Does anybody else up here have a comment or question? Or
Well done to the group that took so much time, and what a cool thing.
Yeah.
We all think that our food just magically appears in a grocery store, so good job getting yourselves educated and doing such a positive thing in the community.
I'm a gardener myself. It's good. Okay. I move that we forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for the Juan Diego zoning text amendment alternative text, as requested by Joe Colosimo, representing Skaggs Catholic Center, LLC, application 2026-0006, TA, based on the following findings and the criteria for approval listed in the staff report dated March 3, 2026. The alternative text, however, is that a conditional use will be allowed in the R3 zone only. That will be the only change. But there will be a footnote. It'll be limited to sites and properties 1 acre in size or less that are ancillary to an existing private school campus within the city. Site coverage with buildings and structures limited to no more than 2,000 square feet. Maximum height of buildings and structures limited to 25 feet.
Thank you, Lisa. And who will second that motion?
I'll second.
Thanks, Christine.
Could I propose an additional amendment that I think we all were on board with? And my brain just went totally blank. Oh, the ancillary. The word ancillary should probably be defined in our code for this purpose.
Are you wanting me to define ancillary, or are you
No,
suggesting that the city work
Yeah,
create a definition of ancillary
that, yes.
Before this is passed or after it's passed?
As it is passed. I would
As it
think
is passed.
Additional text.
We can get a definition for the term between now and the time it goes to council.
Yeah. Thank you.
If that's in your motion.
So I will include in my motion that the city define ancillary in the code and present that to the city council.
Great. And Christine, you're still seconding that?
Yes, I'll second.
Great. Thank you. Okay, let's put this to a vote for positive recommendation. Lisa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Laura down there?
Yes.
Lisa? Oh, sorry, Mary and Susan. Mary?
Yes.
And then Susan.
Yes.
Thank you. See, I tried to mix it up and keep you included down there, Laura. Congratulations, guys. Thanks for the presentation. We appreciate you being part of our community. All right, let's go on to our next public hearing. This one is the High Point Office Building 2 site plan and deviations request. It's on the request of Riley Young of Mint Architecture, representing High Point Partners, LLC. The site plan and deviation request for the construction of a new office building on approximately 1.02 acres, located at approximately 193 East Highland Drive. This is known as application 2024-0350-SP and 2024-0217-VAR. So, Jen, I'm assuming you're our staff contact on this one as well.
Todd is going to do this one.
Oh, perfect.
I've got
Todd.
this
Okay,
one.
great. Sorry, I should have looked for the eye contact there. There we go. Okay, Todd.
Divide and conquering.
Yes, got it. Go ahead, Todd.
All right, thank you. So again, yes, this is Mary Ann's application, but I'm presenting in her stead. This is the vicinity map, and you can kind of see where that is in relation to the rest of the city, kind of in that southwest corner. You can see Highland Drive there in the aerial a little bit better, and then Bangor, just if my mouse work, kind of along the east side there. So this is the existing site. At the time this site was approved, this was a pad site, and so there is some parking that was already installed. The particular development that they're looking at with this application would be a new office building on the remainder that's left. The land use here is the neighborhood commercial, and then the zoning is CR. This is the site plan. It just kind of shows again where that building would sit in relation to the existing parking and curb. There will be 2 small changes to the existing site. Right now, this is a larger planter island. They will take out about half of that island and add 1 more parking stall there. And then they will be adjusting the ADA parking to add an ADA parking stall here. Part of that is due to the fact they have an issue, and I've got a picture so it will make sense later. But they have an issue in the parking garage with their ADA parking. One of the stalls does not meet the minimum sizes, and so with the addition of this building, they're kind of essentially going to be moving that stall to here. It will still comply with ADA parking, and when they get that all fixed, there'll be kind of 1 stall off, so they needed to add 1 more stall in. So in the end, it will all equal out the same as the parking that's available right now. 310 spaces, I believe, is the total. Oop. And I better use this so it doesn't just keep rolling on me like last time. And then there's just a little bit of a blown up version of that if there were any details that were a little bit harder to see on the other plan. Same here with the landscape plan. All of the landscaping on the site is existing except for what will go in and immediately around the building. And of course, where that parking stall is going to be added, they'll be taking out the existing landscaping that's just in that area. And then just a closer version here. You'll notice this is kind of a walkout basement, and there's an amenity and a seating area down here, which is required. One of the conditions that is listed in the staff report, we didn't get any floor plans with this application, so we don't know that it is ADA accessible at this time. So that's just a condition added to make sure that that ADA access is included at the time of the building permit. Elevations here, just with the colors and materials and the architectural variation horizontally and vertically, which does comply with ordinance. So this is the north elevation, looking towards the existing building that's there. This is the south elevation, up back towards the street, and then we've got the east and the west. They're kind of the same. This is a rendering that the applicant did submit. It's not 100% accurate, but it gives you kind of an idea of what that building would look like there on the side, and then some of the slope that exists in that area. Obviously, the landscaping will be much more robust. So the other part here is in adding this building, they are in need of a parking deviation. The square footage of the building, with the available parking on site, they have a slight deficit, depending on kind of how you look at it. So what I've got here is just what our ordinance requires, what the parking study looked at. I did have to kind of calculate. There was not a lot of information in the parking study about exactly what numbers they used. These are the numbers I kind of reverse engineered from what they had. There is some discrepancy we're noting between some of the uses. They termed everything, I believe, as medical service, and I think we had some that we were actually looking at as personal care, with some other as the medical service rates. In the end, the parking study basically would indicate that if all uses were open at the same time and they had the same peak hour, they need 317 spaces. Of course, that's about 7 shy of the 310 that are there. The ordinance requirements is calculated out. It's on the low end, using that natural deviation would be somewhere between the 322, 395. So that may be 12 stalls short, just on using our natural deviation. So in the end, the parking study, when we look at those as staff, we look at, are they valid? Do they meet the requirements of ordinance? Yes, this one does meet those minimum requirements of ordinance to be considered. There is one other piece of that which this table won't really show, which is that then they looked at time of day. And one of those uses, of course, is that reception center. The 34 spaces that they indicated fits within the range that we would have looked at even in a natural adjustment range. So that's another way we can kind of tell the study is valid. However, in that, and I think in the report and in the condition, Marianne had it as asking that reception center only operate after 6 p.m. In the study, it actually showed that as 5 p.m. and after. So if you wanted to make a slight change there, I think that would be in line with the study if you find that a deviation is appropriate. And part of the reason there is that would be consistent with the study showing that no use by that reception center during the day. So there are a few things in the study where the engineer has talked about, well, it would use a few spaces during the day, but then in the actual calculation you showed it having none. It could probably accommodate that. The maximum usage that they calculated during the day would be, I believe, 283 stalls for all the other on-site uses that are proposed. So there may be a little bit that could fit in there. And just again, with those required findings for parking deviation, I pulled these from the ordinance, but they're not exactly per the ordinance here. So what you're looking for is if you do approve the deviation from the strict compliance from either the number of spaces or the required calculations, in this case it's kind of both, you just need to be able to make these following findings: that adequate parking will be provided, the total number of spaces that otherwise be required would be overly burdensome for the site, estimated trade-offs between businesses which are open and others which are closed will not overburden the parking provided, and that is, I believe, met if we have that condition in there. That there is adequate availability of shared parking for all associated uses. Again, that also goes back to the condition. That the site or use specific conditions or factors do not provide for compliance with the parking calculation used or parking requirements outlined in ordinance. That transportation alternatives, including proximity to transit stations, provide adequate transportation to offset any reduction in parking. This one's a little bit difficult. We don't really have a transit line there. UTA does operate via, so there is transit availability, but it's kind of limited to the on-demand service. And then just the other one I've highlighted there, just the potential future expansions or additions to the development will have or provide adequate parking for that expansion or addition. So Marianne has also included another condition in the list of conditions there, requesting essentially that when a new business comes in that we're going to evaluate their parking. And that's just because in the study, there's a second part of this where the engineer indicates that any of the uses in the city's chart of uses that would require 5 per thousand parking would be totally acceptable in this development. Staff has kind of looked at that, and that's something else that we kind of look at is the appropriateness of the conclusion. We don't think that conclusion is appropriate here. We do think, though, that on a case-by-case basis with the businesses that are coming in the future, we would need to address the parking based on the parking that's there and available. There is no on-street parking allowed either on Bangerter or on Highland there, so there's no ability for this to overflow. So we do have a concern there, but in the end, the study is valid. If it's a couple of spaces or, whether that's 2, 7, or 12, really doesn't matter. There are a few spaces it would be short, but again, that would be up to the property owner to make sure that they're putting tenants in there that aren't going to have parking needs beyond what is available. Again, I believe the applicant is here as well as their traffic engineer, so they can answer any questions on how they did the study and anything you may have in that realm. Trying to see if there's anything else I missed. Sorry. And then just the site photos here. Again, this is kind of looking from the corner of the site in towards the existing building where this new building would go. And then this is kind of looking kind of from right here back across the site where you've got the two existing ADA and they would be adding another. And then this is just the one that we can't have a concrete pillar in the middle of the access aisle, so this one will be being amended, but that's kind of a separate thing. Other
Todd?
than that,
Oh,
sorry.
I have a
Are
question.
there any questions for me? Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else that could be removed in the parking lot to add other spaces? Like, can you go back to the parking, to the site drawing?
So this is the site plan for this particular one. I don't know that I have one for the overall site.
Well, that's okay.
This might be the better to kind of show. Really, that's the only one that I can recall. Most of these other parking islands are pretty much standard size. And it is a little bit of unique shape.
If you remove those end caps or whatever they're called, it wouldn't add more parking.
No. In fact, they're required. Those are required landscaping in the parking area.
In
this one just
Draper-
happened to be, yes.
In
yeah.
Draper code
Yes.
or in
our
state
code?
code?
In our code.
But that would be a deviation.
Yeah, to
If we
remove them,
did
they would have to come in, and I don't.
Would restripe everything.
Yeah. But in this case, this one was larger than it needed to be, larger than the minimum. They could easily modify it, put the additional space in, and it still meets the parking lot landscape requirements, still meets parking or for the site, and then landscaping for the overall site. So there's no loss. In the staff report, I think Marianne reported that the actual on-site landscaping is at 21%, 21% of the site is landscaped and 20% is our minimum. So they're still above that.
So the reception center use, that's in the new building, the anticipated?
No, it's existing. It's existing.
So we would be imposing a new restriction on an existing business that's there?
It would be a new restriction on the business. That I don't know that that's in place right now. That is correct.
I mean, I like the restriction, but I think that's, once they've already negotiated rent and have that space, I take some issue with putting that restriction on an existing business that hasn't already had it and didn't come in under those terms. I mean, for parking purposes, it makes it
Works.
makes it work.
Yeah,
or
workable.
it could work.
Yeah.
But I find that really problematic. But I understand why the proposal was made.
Yeah, without that restriction in place, then the parking study does not actually justify the parking.
With that, right? Exactly.
So
I agree with
I
Mary.
would just kind of keep in mind that given the mix of uses, there are some uses like a reception center that typically is going to have different hours, may not always have different hours, but typically will. And I think that's what the parking study was getting at, saying they're going to have evening hours, and that condition staff has. The site is tight. Looking at the landscaping, we really can't take the landscaping out and meet our landscaping code, and the site's tight. So really the question I think you guys need to look at is there a condition that you can put that makes you comfortable with that reduction in parking? And again, it's not that many spaces, and keeping in mind that uses do change over time.
Right.
So that reception center is there now. It may not be there, 5-10 years from now, and uses do change, and so parking needs will fluctuate.
I agree with Mary's concern. I have the same concern exactly. If they've already negotiated a lease, I'm curious, does that lease specify evening times? In other words, if they're open 8 to 10 p.m. on their lease, and now we're coming in and restricting that.
Yeah, that'd be a question for the applicant.
Okay.
Well, and presumably, there is no restriction now, at least on a city level. There's no limitation because parking hasn't been an issue, right, up until this building is being added. And I agree, without the limitation, you could theoretically have that rented out every day for conference space, that reception area.
That's exactly what I was thinking, yeah. They could have it for conference space.
Right.
I think it's called the Ballard. Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, we'll have that question for the applicant.
Okay.
Great. All right, is the applicant here? All right, you want to come on down, just state your name. You can add anything to that presentation, and then we'll have some questions for you.
My name is Greg Goffin. Represent the owners and Thrive Development. Tough act to follow, the last one. Holy cow. With me, I have Jason with Focus Engineering. He's the one that did the parking study. And then Riley with Mint Architecture. So I have a few things here, so forgive me if I'm looking down and reading this, but got a couple things I just want to make sure. So thanks for taking the time tonight. And so we're excited about this plan. This is lot 2 of the development that we just talked about. This is a 25,806 square foot building. The existing one there is roughly 75,000 square feet. So this one's a third of the size that we're proposing. This was approved back in 2021. So this is an office building, which we're also excited to get done because we're maximizing the best use for Draper City, trying to get the biggest building we can, to get the most employees there that we can, and help that. And also, just with the change in the last 5 or 6 years with the market and with COVID, we're pretty proud to actually get an office building up and going. So that's great. A couple things that we just want to clear up with the report. The personal care classification. Let's see, Table 4 of the staff report classifies approximately 5,000 square feet as personal care. So there's, on the first floor, there's a surgical center, and on the second floor, there's the plastics clinic, and those two are running with each other. So the plastics clinic has 3 doctors, 2 nurse practitioners, a registered nurse, and 1 physician assistant. It's owned by the same owners of the surgical center, as I just said. And we've worked with staff on this in the past, and Jen, the community department director, has confirmed in an email December 5th that because of that classification, or because of the uses and all the specific uses, it is considered medical use, or I'm sorry, medical service. And I have that email with us. So, and this was, the medical service is 3 per thousand. And if you go further on, it says the report states that the owner allowed uses that are more intense parking requirements than office. Let's look at what the code actually says. Surgical center, medical is 3 per thousand. That's 25% less than office, not more. Financial capital is general office, which is 4 per thousand. Endeavor Capital is general office, 4 per thousand. And then the event center is 4 per thousand as well. So from the original plan, we've actually improved the parking by quite a bit and not made it worse. Let's see here. Please interrupt me and ask any questions. Let's see, the report states that the IT peak demand is 283 stalls. In that report, it says this is still 12 more stalls than is provided on the site. The site has 310 minus the 283, that's 27. That's a 27 stall surplus not a 12-stall deficit. So that's just another little correction that needs to be taken note in that report. And that's a 39-stall swing in the wrong direction. So that makes a big difference of how this looks. When you correct the personal care classification, here are the actual numbers. There's 349 stalls required by code, 315 with the 10% deviation under section 925-090. There's 310 on site. That's a gap of 5 stalls, not 10, not 48. That's 5. It's a 1.6% variance that we're asking for. And every world measure confirms that we don't need more, that we don't need those 5 stalls. ITE peaks demand at 8, we're at 283. That's 27 below our supply. Our average observed demand across 12 count days is 155 stalls. So we'd go out and we'd take pictures and just take pictures to see how many stalls were vacant, and that's 50% of our capacity. Even on the single busiest day we recorded, project demand with our new building is 291. That's still 19 below of the supply of 310 that we have. I want to take a note that the parking study conservatively assumes, this is a good point, that when we did this parking study and we would monitor how many or when we monitored those 12 days, we just assumed that the parking garage was fully occupied, which it never is. And so right now there's 42 stalls in the parking garage. So you can, if you go average with the rest of those numbers, that's an extra 20 that we're counting that probably aren't being used at the time when we were doing this. So that's a pretty big difference. That actually demand is down to 155 stalls. One thing on the different criteria to meet, the transportation alternatives. Draper City Mass Transportation Plan adopted back in 2019. The Active Transportation Plan adopted September 2020 identified Highland Drive as a designated bike corridor with existing bike lanes. UTA Route 871 runs 30 minutes headways all day on the corridor. UTA Route F514 provides 30-minute peak services. The track's blue line terminates at Draper Town Center with a 15-minute weekday headways. Frontrunner Commuter Rail operates in Draper with 30-minute peak headways. So continuing on, we too have a concern with number 4, the reception center. The reception center tenant has an existing lease that has been in place for approximately 2 years. The lease does not restrict the tenant to evening and weekdays. A site plan condition that restricts her operation beyond what the lease allows, puts me in a position where the city approval conflicts with the contract I've already executed. I can't unilaterally amend her use rights without exposing myself to a breach in the lease. So, and as we go through the parking, and there's plenty of pictures there's no need for it anyways. There's ample parking provided. So, but here's what I want the commission to understand. If we have the reception center operating during the business hours every single day, the math still works. The code calculation gap is 5 stalls. The reception center evening, because it's still 4 per 1,000. The reception center evening schedule is what makes the ITE time of day number so favorable at 283, but we don't need to offset and justify the deviation. The straight code math at 350 required versus 310 is available. That's a 1.6% gap that we're asking for. I think that's it. Do you guys have any
I have a question that's not related to parking.
Okay.
On the site plan, there is let's see, that would be the southwest corner of the building, or the west side of the building, but on that corner, there's let's see if Todd can get back to it. Yeah, there's a little seat with benches and so forth, but it needs to be ADA compliant.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So if you go to, it's on the east side. So that's the amenity that we had planned for the building. Mm-hmm. So if you go on the other side of that, Todd, if you wouldn't mind going to the landscape plan, please. I think that would be
if you best. Control your mouse, huh?
Yeah, right there. So if you look to the right of the building on the east side, that's what we had envisioned for the amenity space. So that will be ADA accessible.
On one side, but not on the other.
Yeah, not on the other. That one's for the building and the tenants. That's an amenity for the tenants, but amenity for the public was that parking or that bench and picnic that we had out there.
Todd, does it
So
have
we
to
did try
be?
to adjust, or sorry.
Yeah, address it. But Todd, does that other the larger?
My
it kinda looks
recollection
larger.
is that they're both needed.
They're
and
both
this
needed.
one is listed on the west side there as an outdoor seating area as well.
So it has to be ADA compliant, even if there is another one available.
I believe
that
so.
is ADA. Okay, I don't know the rules, so off the top of my head.
I'm going to look up the rules. So, but ask your other questions while I do that.
Okay, and we'll have a hearing too, don't we? Public hearing. Yeah. Okay. I mean, you'd have to do a door from the basement.
Yeah,
or from the
and
lowest
that's-
level.
Right now, that's the plan, is a door from the basement out to that patio. Are you talking about the lowers?
The lower one, the one on the west.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'd have to do that to make it ADA compliant, plus an elevator inside.
Yeah, there'll be an elevator in the building, so.
Okay. Any other
Who
questions?
parks in the garage?
I'm sorry?
Who parks in the covered parking, the 40 stalls?
There's 42 in the covered parking right
And,
now.
and who has access to those?
Everybody.
Oh, okay.
There's no, it's just.
There's no
open.
gate or
Anybody
anything?
can get
Oh,
in.
okay.
Yep, yeah. And so we just assumed, because we didn't have pictures of that, we just assumed that it was fully occupied in our empirical data.
Okay, great.
Been up there a lot at night, but during the day, I think who honestly parks here? Like, the parking lots are so empty.
Yeah.
A lot in the day that it's honestly surprising parking.
Yeah.
Unless you're bringing in this like crate, because like I said, I haven't been there at night, but during the day,
It's still an empty parking lot.
yeah, I mean, there's people parking, but it's not,
Yeah.
you never question, where am I going to park? How am I going to get to this building? And there's so much parking, I think.
Yeah, and so I'm glad you brought that up, because the first building is 3 times the size of the one that we're trying to get approved with the 5-stall deviation. And then just another thing, since COVID happened, there's obviously work from home. I mean, just going through this application, I can either come here or we do a Zoom call, and most people take a Zoom call. So, and with the clients that we have, there's medical service. They obviously get people coming in. The other one is a financial service, and he said there's the 2 parts that COVID happened, and so work from home's a thing, but now clients aren't coming to the office either because they're just doing it through Zoom. So it's been like a double whammy on, I mean, Pluralsight's been fully released, and it's still 50% vacant.
Yeah,
So
crazy, huh?
yeah, I mean, you guys have beautiful office buildings throughout the city, and they're 50% vacant parking on the office. So.
All right.
I
Go ahead,
have an
Jen.
answer to the question. So 2 amenities are required given the size of the building. But it doesn't say they have to be ADA accessible from the outside. So if somebody can enter the building, use the elevator, go to the basement and access it, that would comply. So maybe that condition could be tweaked in wording for just to be verified that it is an ADA accessible amenity.
Because it's included in the report, so it would be inclusive of our motion, but we need to
Yes.
clarify. Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so just, I guess, final, just the 2 conditions that obviously number 4 is a problem, having the existing lease in place. We asked that to be removed. And then number 3, I mean, I feel like this parking study kind of handles that new tenant situation already, but that's my thoughts, so.
Great, all right. We'll
And then if-
excuse you, and then we'll bring you back up if we need to.
Okay,
After
sounds
the
good.
hot public hearing here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and open this up to public comment. Just the same rules as before. Anyone that would like to address this agenda item? Feel free to stand up, come on down. Nobody? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
I have some staff questions. So there seems to be some dispute, for lack of a better word. Do you, Todd, or Jennifer, but Todd, it's your project, right? Do you feel like anything needs to be revised in our packet, because we really have to rely on information that comes from our staff. So it's hard for me to have an applicant stand up and say, no, that's all wrong. And then.
So I think the one that they did point out, where it just says the peak usage would be 283, which is still 12 more than is provided on site. I think that is a bit confusing. I agree. Because what the study says is 283 is the peak usage calculated using that ITE parking manual. 283 be the peak usage at, I believe it's 11 a.m. in the day, not including the reception center at all.
Okay.
If you add what the reception center requires at peak usage, that's now 34 more parking stalls. Now the peak usage, all uses at the same time at peak, is still 7 more parking stalls than they have on site.
Okay.
So their calculation that they put in the study for each of those uses is correct. Altogether, that's 317 parking stalls would be needed. Site has 310. We're at a 7-stall deficit if all uses are open at peak at the same time. Staff's concern, and I know that Marianne put it in a few places here, is really more towards future uses that might exceed what has been calculated here in the study and our own ordinance. That's the concern. I think at one time there was a condition potentially to say, well, or the other way is we could reduce this, recommend reducing the square footage of the building. The original building, I believe, was 2 floors, not 3. So this is an increase from that by a floor, but it still is within pretty close to what existing parking was provided for the 2 buildings. So really it is up to the Planning Commission on that deviation, how you want to handle that. The study would not support it as without some condition, because the study obviously altered times of day and did those things. So if we're not going to alter time of day, then we need to just look at the calculations straight out of the study.
Okay, thank you.
All right, commissioners, any thoughts, debate, or?
So on page 9, the applicant, page 9 of our report, the applicant wants to change 3 and 4, I believe. And 4 is about the use only after 6 p.m., the 9,100 square feet. But he has a contract, so I'm willing to remove 4. But I do think that number 3, any future tenants in the buildings should comply. We should have them do a review. So I still think 3 should stay in place. What do you guys think?
Well, I don't support number 4. However, I understand why it's there, and I have a hard time saying yes to a deviation without some sort of restriction that will make the parking compliant. The deviation or the condition on limitation of use is what makes it work, and without that, it doesn't work. So that's my concern.
So that would cause the applicant to come back with the changes or the corrections to this parking study and discuss that with staff, Mary. Is that what you're thinking?
It wouldn't come to you guys. Essentially, as new businesses come in, we would be looking for updated parking numbers from the applicant to show that it still works. And if it's a like-for-like business, then that's going to be unnecessary. If it's a new use that's being put in, then we'll have to look at those numbers.
But that's for 3 only.
Yes.
The proposal was to eliminate 4, which makes none of it work anymore. right?
I mean,
it makes it not math.
Right.
That's
It makes
correct.
them, yes, exactly.
So it is a small number of parking spaces that we're really talking about. And that parking study, and let me just read 3 here because, it says any future tenants in the existing or proposed building. So what that does is, that parking study is going to take into account the reception center. They're gonna have to take into account their parking needs for the overall property in both buildings. So it does give us the ability to say, we're not going to issue a business license or a tenant improvement for this business because it does not meet parking needs.
For future businesses.
For future businesses.
Including the businesses in the new building?
Including the new building.
Okay.
So existing businesses would be able to stay.
Right.
They're there.
Yeah.
But new businesses going into the existing building would also be subject to 3.
If
there's new business.
They're
Changed
different
over.
from what we're anticipating.
Yes.
But without the limitation on time for the reception center, none of it works, right? I mean, as far as our code.
Per the
Meaning if the reception center left and more
No.
medical moved in upstairs, is that what you're saying?
I mean, if with no time limitation, because that's what's being proposed in number 4 is 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. And beyond only for hours of operation. But this is an existing business that I agree with the applicant, that's hard for him. There may be some clause in his lease that allows this to happen, but that's not anything I have any appetite to do.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the parking study that
Right.
generated that, because the parking study said
Exactly.
there will be no use of any parking by the reception center before 5 p.m. However, to your point, I think as staff we can live with if you eliminated 4, because I think a lot of that is covered under 3, where we would be reviewing each tenant as they came in to ensure they complied with parking. What that would do, however, is it would mean, say, and this is just an example, in the new building has been calculated essentially at the 4 per thousand. I forget what the rate was. The study, I'll see if I can go to it. So they looked at 3.65 stalls per thousand in that general office. It was all looked at as general office. We look at it for, the study came up with 3.65. What that would really mean is in that building, they'd have to put in uses that use less than 3.65 to comply. And so that may be something more in that medical service, what is it, the 2.75, kind of our 3, or something else that's allowed in the zone that has a lower parking requirement.
So this could fix itself with the right kinds of businesses coming into that building. And that would be the applicant's job to make sure that they comply. Okay. I mean, that's
another way of looking at it.
okay. I appreciate that.
They could use storage area. I'm kidding. A lot less required parking. Hey, our legal department, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking somewhere, and tell me if I'm wrong, I seem to be like one of our trainings. We talked about deviations from parking where it doesn't line up with the traffic study in this exact scenario. Am I thinking right? Does this recall?
I don't recall having trained on parking, but that might be something from your previous life.
Maybe that was it. Yes, cobwebs. Right. Do you have any input on this situation for the traffic study?
My only
or wisdom
is trust the numbers. The numbers are there. So what we do is we strive to make our code clear and objective and enforceable. Right. And everything that's in our code says this is how we're going to do this by numbers. And we're not going to, I don't know, do the study for people, but we're going to trust what the study says. And there's people much smarter than me that go out and figure out how many parking stalls should be in any one given development, or how much traffic any one development is going to cause. And I don't understand the science behind it, and I don't understand the math behind it. And I'm perfectly okay with that, because trust the numbers.
Okay, thank you.
All right, commissioners, should we put forward a motion?
I'm ready. I'm willing to forward a positive recommendation. How do you guys, are you guys
This is
for parking wait, which one's first? Parking deviations.
This is for approval.
Well, we're not yet making a recommendation.
This is
It's to
approval
approve
on
or
both of
deny.
these.
Approval, full approval.
Site plan and parking
I'm willing
deviation.
to approve it and eliminate 4, and then staff recommendation 4, but add to 7 that access could be from inside the building. It doesn't have to be outside the building. I guess it just says that standards of the American Disabilities Act. We can leave it that way. They can read the act themselves.
I think that kind of covers it. I think that covers itself.
Yeah, it does.
I don't think we need to modify
We
that.
don't need to edit that one. Okay, well, I'm going to do that then. I move that we approve the parking deviation as requested by Riley Young of Mint Architecture, representing High Point Partners LLC, application 2024-0127-VAR, based on the findings for approval listed in the staff report dated November 12, 2025, except we want the removal of staff recommendation number 4 about the hours of occupation.
And just to clarify, that's not removal of a finding, that's removal of a condition, correct?
I'm sorry, what?
Not removal of a finding, but removal of a condition.
Just a staff recommendation condition. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So is that it, Lisa?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so that's your motion with for approval on the parking deviation removal of number 4. Who will second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Let's go ahead and put that one to a vote. So, Lisa,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Susan,
No.
and Christine.
Yes.
Okay. And we got one more here. This is for approval of the site plan.
Do I need to do the same, say the same thing?
Probably.
I move that we approve the site plan as requested by Riley Young of Mint Architecture, representing High Point Partners LLC, application 2024-350-SP, based on the findings for approval and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated November 12, 2025, except that we will remove condition number 4 listed in the staff recommendation section.
Perfect. Thanks, Lisa. Who will second that one?
I'll second it.
All right. Thanks, Laura, again. So, Lisa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Susan?
No.
Christine?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That get approved. Congrats on that. Thanks for coming in and spending some time with us. I appreciate all your hard work on that. All right. We're going to take a quick little 5-minute bio break, and we'll see you guys all back here in 5 minutes. Ready, go. All right, let's re-adjourn. Everyone's back from break. Everybody's here? Great. All right, welcome back. So we've got 2 more agenda items here. Hang tight with us. We'll get through these. The next one we've got is a public hearing. It's the Kimball's Junction Development Agreement Amendment Request. It's on the request of Mike Winters, representing Edge Homes, for an amendment to the Kimball's Junction Development Agreement in order to set design standards and concept plan for approximately 21 acres of land located at 632 East Kimball's Lane in the RM2, which is the multifamily residential zone. The application number is 2025-0293-DA, and Jennifer Jastrzemski is the contact on this. So go ahead, Jennifer.
Great, thank you. So the Kimball's Junction development, the original development agreement was approved last year. It set just a couple things. It set a density range of 25 to 27 units per acre, called for 30 workforce housing units to be done with the applicant and the city, and then called for a future amendment to approve design standards and concept plans. So the property is on Kimball's Lane and 119th South, directly across the street from the Kimball's track station. It is in our high-density land use designation, as well as our RM2 multifamily zoning designation. And it's within that Kimball Station Area Plan. Kind of opened up those documents earlier in the evening. Our stationary plan did look specifically at this property. It was one of the ones that we looked at. It did call for extensive residential, as well as a trail along the creek. Let's see. So the proposed development agreement maintains that density that's already been approved. It complies, the concept plan complies with our parking standards, so they're not asking for any deviation to parking numbers. It will change the name to Kimball Station instead of Kimball Junction. They do have extensive amenities, which I'll show you a plan of in a minute. It does call for a public trail along the East Jordan Canal. And it does call for good faith efforts to preserve existing trees along the canal. And that canal trail is on our master plans, our trail and open space master plan as well. Access to 119th South would be limited to emergency only access, so it wouldn't be a general access point for residents. And then it sets design standards. So there's specific building elevations that are approved. They do differ in architectural designs, building materials, that kind of thing from our code, but it sets specific elevations. Building heights would be allowed up to 54 feet tall, so our code allows 35 feet right now. So they're proposing 3-story and 4-story condo buildings, as well as 3-story townhomes. The code requires sidewalk on both sides of the street. They are proposing a pedestrian sidewalk system that's not on both sides of the street, but that is connecting all of the buildings and the amenities and to the public sidewalk. Parking space standards, they're proposing to reduce lengths by 2 feet. So carports, they're proposing to be 18 feet deep, and parallel spaces are proposing to be 20 feet deep. Our code requires 20 and 22. Open space reduction from our standard 30% to 25%. This is a TOD. It is next to a track station, so having a reduction in that open space does make sense for a TOD. Building setbacks, it calls for a 10-foot setback from the public roadways. Our code setback standards are based on the height of the structure. So if it's under 3 stories, it can be anywhere from 5 to 20 feet. And then if it's over 3 stories, 15 to 30. So they are proposing just 10. And then a 10-foot setback between buildings on the property. The code calls for 15. And then they are looking for a 2-foot reduction in driveway depth from 20 feet to 18 feet. Let's see, alleys and roadways. Alleyways, they're asking for 20-foot wide alleys, and that would be they're shorter alleyway lengths, and I'll show you that in the concept site plan, with the through streets being 27 feet wide. They're proposing to eliminate the landscape buffer along Juan Diego, but still have a 10-foot landscape buffer, an 8-foot wall, adjacent to the existing residential that's along the west property lines. And then signs, they are proposing 2 monument signs. Our code for residential signs requires it be kind of a fairly small sign included in a fence that goes around the development. They're proposing just to be able to have a monument sign in each of their entrances that would comply with our standard freestanding monument sign height and area standards. And then public street design, they do have a little bit different plan for Kimball's Lane with an integrated sidewalk with trees rather than have a traditional park strip and sidewalks. And then it does allow staff to approve small deviations to the agreement as it's going through the approval process. With those 2 standards, it would not materially affect the overall design and development standards, and it's necessary due to unforeseen technical or engineering considerations. If a change doesn't meet those 2 parameters, they have to meet the code or they have to amend their development agreement. And then it does give supremacy to the designs and layouts in the agreement versus code if there's a conflict, unless it's life safety or fire protection. Okay, concept plan. So they do have, I'm trying to get the mouse to work here. So these are 4-story buildings. The gray's color is 4-story buildings. The yellow or the brownish color is the 3-story buildings. And then the yellow is your 3-story townhome buildings. So you can see we do have some shorter alleyways here. These would be the areas that are 20 feet wide. All of the roads that go through the development are the ones that would be that 27 feet.
Are the little alleyways, are they supposed to be larger because of a car coming from each direction? And if they're smaller than this, then the cars can't pass each other, right? It would have to be one person at a time.
20 feet is sufficient for 2-way traffic. It's kind of the minimum. If somebody has a larger vehicle, it may be harder backing up or, that kind of thing, but 20 feet is sufficient for 2-way.
Our emergency services are the ones that requested us to go from a 20-foot alleyway to a 6-foot alleyway when we made the change in our code.
So if there's a car parked in one of those alleys, they're not going to be able to drive a fire truck through it.
Well, these have driveways, so there can't be any parking in these specific ones. But that is a consideration generally in our code.
Yeah, so all the garages do have driveways. They're proposing 18 feet in depth, but they do all of them have driveways for each garage. The townhomes do have 2-car garages each. The condo buildings do have a row of parking garages on the bottom floor, and then there are carports and uncovered parking as well. There is a community clubhouse amenity space here, as well as several smaller amenities throughout the development. So amenities, clubhouse, pool, seating areas. You can kind of see that kind of center walkway, and their open spaces. This is more of the amenities. So building designs, this would be the 4-story condos. They have 2 different roof types, one sloped and one flat. And then we've got the 3-story condos as well, and the townhomes. And then their parking plan, so this is just kind of designating what that covered parking would look like and where it would be. There's a couple of recommendations staff would like you to include with your recommendation to the City Council for language to include in the development agreement. The first two really just get at street dedication and public improvements and making sure that there's something in the development agreement that's clear that unless the agreement is allowing for a modification, that they're meeting our standards. And then the third one, I don't know, Brian, if you want to talk about that one specifically.
Sure. Can you go back to an aerial photo? So the 119th South, that's at the very bottom right of the image. Currently, that ends in a dead end, just straight. That forces our garbage trucks and snow plows to use a private driveway to turn around, and it's difficult. Our city standard is to have a cul-de-sac at the end of every public street. I don't know specifically because 119th South is, been this way for quite a while. But in the past, the city has allowed a deviation from the cul-de-sac when there was an opportunity for the road to continue to another public road to connect a through street rather than a dead end. This development, in essence, ensures that this is going to be a dead-end street on 119th South. So staff is recommending that they put in half of a cul-de-sac at the end of the existing public street on the north side. That would impact their site plan. And as you're aware with the site plan where it says that, if there's a conflict, the site plan governs, we want to make sure that it's clear that the cul-de-sac is required.
But that exit is
the exit would
blocked,
be,
right?
No,
with
the exit would
gated.
still be an emergency exit, and they're proposing to have some controls on that so that it's not used as a public entrance or exit. But that's just so that we meet the city standard at the end of a dead-end street where we have a cul-de-sac. And when the south side of the road redevelops or changes, then we'll have that side provide the other half of the cul-de-sac. And just one more clarification. There is a triangle shown on Kimball's Lane that's near that east entrance. That's to ensure that the buildings don't encroach into the site distances that vehicles need. And that was a concern that we had at a conceptual level, just to make sure that when we get to design, that the buildings won't be forced to be creating a potential safety issue with traffic entering and exiting onto the site from Kimball's Lane.
And those properties don't get backyard fences anyway. Those are the condo products right there, right? So you're not, no fencing.
They have not proposed any fencing. They are, like the development agreement says, our typical standard on Kimball's would be a 12-foot right-of-way dedication behind the curb and gutter. They're proposing a 10-foot sidewalk with the street trees and the grates. So it is a reduction of right-of-way there for 2 feet from the standard, but we just wanted to make sure that the buildings and landscaping, whatever, don't impact the visibility as you go around that corner.
I have a question about the sidewalk deviations that they were looking at. Can you point to the differences on this map for us?
So,
are we not there yet?
We don't. It's shown a little bit where this is conceptual. It's kind of hard to identify, but where we're on the eastern part of the site, kind of on the east side of East Jordan Canal, all along Kimball's Lane on the west side of the street, that would go from curb and gutter that exists presently to a 10-foot concrete with trees in the first 4 or 5 feet. And that's where the deviation is. Typically we'd have park strip and sidewalk that would total 12 feet there, but they're asking for 10 feet there. And from an engineering standpoint, we don't see an issue with that, but that's why we're concerned with this triangle there. But that's the only place they've asked for deviation from our standards. But we're requesting those 3 conditions be added to the development agreement, just so it's clear that they're providing the existing standards for right-of-way on 119 South and Kimball's Lane and other areas.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, anything else?
I have a comment. On their site plan, I do not see them calling out the canal trail, the city's small area plan, master plan, and trail plan all show the creek trail, and I think there are a few opportunities we have to get those, and this is one of those times where we have a development that I think we should spell that out more. So I didn't see in the development agreement that is even addressed. And so I feel strongly about it. I think we need to capture that at this opportunity and have that included with the concept or in the development agreement that they will do the creek trail.
Yeah, so the development agreement in the language does say that they'll do the canal trail. The design documents itself in the agreement mentions the canal trail.
If you could show me.
And it's more in the design standards where it talks about it.
Oh, yes. Keep going. It's in 3, I think. 3A, yeah. There.
So, so it does discuss the trail in the agreement, and then the language in the actual development agreement itself says they'll make a good faith effort to preserve trees along the canal. So I think the development agreement does require the canal trail to go in. Now, their concept plan itself doesn't call it out or really show it, but it is mentioned and called for in the agreement.
In addition to what we're looking at right here, is it spelled out somewhere else?
This is an exhibit within the agreement.
Right, okay. So if we go to where it's 3.4.10 of the agreement, it's page 163, I think. I couldn't find it. In other words, I couldn't find the verbiage text saying that. It does call it out on the page. So I just want to make sure that that is incorporated with this development. They build it, and then it's dedicated over to the city. So if that's covered, then great. I didn't see that it really was spelled out.
Yeah, we'll invite you up in just a second.
When they invite you, yeah.
I was just looking at 3.4.10. Keep going. I just couldn't find it, so that's my question. I couldn't find it spelled out in here. It does talk, next one down. So that one does talk about what you were just talking about, the preserving vegetation, perimeter plantings, blah, blah, blah. This is that it's not going to apply for this project, but that they'll make a good effort to preserve the existing trees along the canal. I just want to make sure that that trail is incorporated with this development, that they include that.
Okay.
And if you're saying that it is, great. I'm okay.
So the exhibits for the development agreement are calling that out as part of their amenities and open space. And then the language in the agreement specifically is talking about the preservation of trees. So
that's a good catch, Susan. Just to ask, great, but where? Right, just to point that out.
So did you say it was included in the illustrations?
No, they only pointed that they're going to make a good effort at the trees, but we'll invite the applicant up and see if they. But it still is a good catch. No matter what the applicant says, it'd be nice to see where that's stated. It's interesting that it's evaded the design plan, right? So we'll go from there. Any other questions for staff before we get the applicant up? All right, come on up. We'll get the applicant up now. Come on up. You can add anything you want to that presentation, and then we'll have some questions for you, okay?
I'll try to answer what only you want to hear. There's so much here, right? First of all, thank you for your time tonight. My name is Paxton Guyman. I'm general counsel for Edge Homes. I've been very involved with this project from the start. And I'm going to answer that question first, Commissioner Nixon. We are committed to putting in that trail along the canal. That's why it's in the design standards where it says we're going to put it in. And we have no problem at all adding a sentence to the body of the development agreement that confirms that. So that's a good catch. It was not an intentional omission. It was specifically in the design standards because we fully intend to do that. But there's no reason why you couldn't forward a recommendation, positive or negative, that says make sure we specify that in the body of the development.
Okay, thank you.
That is an important part of our amenity package and our recreation. I mean, let me back up for just a moment. You might recall that when we went through this process of getting this land rezoned last summer, there was a big push to say, look, we got to figure out something here before something different is mandated by the state. And as part of our negotiations with the city, the deal we struck was we're going to build a for sale project, not a rental project. And we all know that there's a lot to be decided, but for now, let's agree to the zoning. Let's have a maximum and a minimum density. And let's agree that after we get that in place, we'll come back with a much more detailed plan. Well, here we are now, 9 months later, with the details, which do comply with the zoning framework that we set in place. And so now we're trying to get to a point where we can move forward. We're very excited about this project. We've done a lot of work with the city staff. What you see today is the result of months and months of back and forth, and we have agreed on every single item as far as getting the staff comfortable with what you see now, which have required a lot of changes to get to this point, with the one exception of that half cul-de-sac. We'll talk about that on 119th South. But you might recall that when we were here last summer, there was a lot of public outcry saying, we don't want 119th South. We don't want traffic coming on 119th South. So that's why we said, okay, we will only use that exit point there as an emergency ingress or egress with collapsible bollards to ensure that that's all who will use it is for emergency purposes. And the fire marshal agreed with that approach and using collapsible bollards. So maybe we could start with those three conditions that were proposed at the end by staff. Is that okay if we start there and talk about them? Would you mind going to those three conditions? The first two, I had a good discussion with Brian and Jen earlier today. We are completely on board with that. All that's really doing is putting in the body of the development agreement what we intend to do anyway, similar to the trail. The third one is the real question, and candidly, we're open to your input. If there's one real issue that we want you to weigh in on tonight and then see what the city council decides, it's this one. If you could go back to the site plan, I'd simply ask for your patience in hearing our point of view on this, and then we'll accept what the city council decides. We're not going to die on this hill, as they say. So right now, if you look at 119th South Street, it already dead ends right up against Juan Diego. The school boundary to the west here, you already have a dead end street with no cul-de-sac. So we're dealing with an existing condition. There is very little likelihood, I don't know how it would ever happen, and there's certainly no plans in the reasonably foreseeable future for 119th South to actually be developed as a road and somehow make it through Juan Diego to connect to a public road. So as we see it, city staff, in asking us to put in a half cul-de-sac here, is asking us to fix a pre-existing problem that our project does not create. Where 119th South currently jogs, the city doesn't own anything to the west of there. That is not even a public road. It's essentially a prescriptive easement that some of the property owners on the south side have used to access their properties. That's really what it is. So then you have to say, well, who's going to benefit from this half cul-de-sac that's being asked of us? Our project isn't. Our residents won't use that. What you see there is we've put in about, 8 additional parking stalls for additional on-site or guest parking within our project. Our residents can't go in or out from 119th South. They're not going to use that half cul-de-sac. So who is going to use it? Well, it would simply be the existing residents on 119th South if they have somebody that comes to see them and needs to turn around, or an Amazon vehicle or somebody. But my point is that problem exists today. Our project is not creating this impact. It's a pre-existing problem, and under typical land use standards, if you require us to solve a pre-existing problem, the city pays for it, candidly, not the developer. So that's an issue as we see it. The other point to that is that to do the half cul-de-sac, the city's asking us to dedicate that land to the city that we had to pay for at a very high price, and to pay for the improvements. Again, this is an off-site improvement land that we own for an improvement that our project doesn't need or won't use. And so under exaction standards, if you're familiar with those in the land use arena, that's sort of a tough sell. Having said that, we have been partners with the city from the start, and we're not going to change now. There's got to be a solution here. If the city is really adamant about having a half cul-de-sac there, then perhaps there's a solution through impact fee credits to help offset the costs of the land value and the improvements. And I'm throwing that out there because that will be a negotiation item that takes place with the city council. That's not an appropriate item for us to try to negotiate with you here tonight. But I think you can understand why we're saying there's some give and take here. We want to be a partner with the city. Maybe there's a solution. If you insist on having us put that in to avoid any sort of a takings analysis, then there should be some sort of an impact fee credit or a cost sharing arrangement, and we are open to that. Like I said, we're not going to die on this hill. There's too much at stake with this project. But under applicable law and land use standards, there should be some participation with the city in one way or another. I'll just leave it at that. I'm here to answer any other questions you have.
I do have a question.
I'm sure.
Yeah, the cul-de-sac, the half cul-de-sac that we're asking, that the city is, or the staff, excuse me, is asking for, is for emergency vehicles. It's for fire, snow plow, anybody that's coming through an emergency that can actually access that gate. So it would be turnaround and ability to get through.
See, I don't see it that way.
Yeah,
Brian, isn't that what it's
these are
for?
private drives, right? This is all private. Everything's all private in here. So
Yeah,
when
but
Brian mentioned that it's for the city to be able to move their snowplows around, I question that because
trucks, too.
Garbage trucks. Brian, isn't that what you said? It was for emergency vehicles?
Well, it would be for anybody that goes down the dead-end street to be able to turn around in a public cul-de-sac bulb rather than having to use a private drive or
which
somebody's
dead-end
driveway.
street? 119?
119.
So it's not, you're not
not-
saying
it's
it's
not
just public, or it's just emergency vehicles. You're saying it's even visitors to those homes.
Well, it would be any public use on that 119th South would use that. So if somebody takes a wrong street trying to get to their neighbor's house, well, somebody lives in the townhomes. Their address makes Google think that they get to it from 119th South. They go there, they find the Bullards. They can't get in there. It allows them to turn around and go back out to 7th East to drive up to the access. The public access is on Kimball Lane. So, it's for any public use there to be able to turn around without creating a liability of having to back up or, use somebody's driveway. Because the people that live there now, that's where the garbage trucks and the snowplows turn around now are people's driveways.
They turn around on the vacant lot right there. Is what they turn around on.
Yeah, it's literally just a road.
Right where this
ends.
where the bollards are going to be right there.
Yeah, so the public road ends right here, and after this point, it is dirt.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no where to turn around, even in the public portion, unless you go into somebody's driveway.
Well, then why is it a builder or developer's responsibility to build that if it's the public going on 119th that's the problem?
So Mr. Paxman is correct that it is an existing deficiency that we have in our road. In the spirit of negotiation and such, we are saying we can live with a smaller dedication along Kimball's Lane of a reduction of 2 feet to go to a 10-foot dedication rather than our standard 12-foot dedication there. But similarly, would like to have a little bit of give on 119th South because that is a deficiency that we do want to correct. And we do think that, deliveries or guests or others may use 119th South trying to access the development. And when they get to the limited access point there, they may park on the street and walk in. They may, need to turn around and go back out and around to the other visits. So I'm not saying that the development will use the cul-de-sac 100%, but it is a deficiency that needs to be corrected. And we feel like in giving some of the right-of-way on Kimball's Lane, that this is an equal and, just exchange of dedication and improvements.
But we do also require like a hammerhead turn or other kinds of turns for emergency vehicles.
So
don't we?
that's for emergency turnarounds. Our public standard for public streets is a cul-de-sac. That's the only standard we have is a cul-de-sac. We don't
These
have
are
a
all private streets.
hammerhead or anything.
Hey, if
on a
I
public
can be so
street.
bold on that one topic, if we just, I mean, we don't have any power to negotiate that, and I would just let that horse trading happen with the city council. If I would just move on from that
Yeah.
one, frankly.
I'm curious, a half cul-de-sac, would that eliminate some of those parking stalls? It does eliminate those?
Yeah, I mean, the
And it would
parking
change
is more
that
important to
amenity.
the development. We're here to talk about design standards, and if this thing, so the more parking, the better inside for the development. And that other option, I honestly, I just think, I mean, we're out of our depth. We couldn't say, yeah, do this, do that, or do the other. So I would just skip past that and then just focus on on anything else. Is that fair, Paxton?
I really do.
Let's do that, and then just let them kind of, because they do have the power to do that, like you mentioned, impact credits. It's land you purchased. It's a problem we had. I know you guys will work it out, but it's probably out of our depth. Just spend time on that.
We'll work it out.
Yeah. Anything else?
I have a question. Is there a requirement on that small parcel that comes up to 119th to put curb and gutter in? Is that?
Let's see. Are you referring to where there's the little jog there?
Yep.
So curb and gutter. I
Where it
actually
hits
don't know.
the public road.
They anywhere where they front the public road, only the public road, they do have
Right,
the requirement
just
to
the
add
small
curb gutter,
piece.
sidewalk, and park strip. Yes.
Okay. So you would need to do,
Curb gutter.
at a minimum, you'd be doing curb and gutter there.
Curb and gutter there,
And
right.
then, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. That is part of that language in points number 1 and 2, isn't it?
Correct. That's our standard.
Yeah.
Local
Right.
street standard is to have curb gutter, sidewalk, and park strip on 119 South, just at the public street frontage.
That makes sense. Yeah, we're not going to contest that.
I have some questions about the reduction in width on the alleyways. I mean, obviously they can put more units. I mean, to alleviate that, you'd have to cut out buildings, but what's some justification for that we can look at?
Well, the justification is simply that we're trying to meet the density that was approved, and we're delivering a project that is going to be a for sale project with workforce housing units, price restricted units for a certain number. We're providing a project that still has 20 feet wide, 2 cars can pass. There's no need for street parking because you've got garages and driveways, and frankly, it's the only way we can make the project work with the densities. Right? There's been so much work going into how do you fit the right mix of units and streets and then still have pedestrian walkways that connect everything. And that's why we got rid of some of the sidewalks, because we now have interconnectivity of pedestrian walkways throughout the entire project. We put a higher value on that. If you're looking at like a sort of a traditional subdivision, of course it makes sense to have sidewalks because that's how you get around. You can't traverse through people's private yards. This is an entirely different concept. This has an interconnectivity where people can walk through the entire project and will not need to have sidewalks that line every street frontage. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The alleyways too, just for clarity, there's no parking on. We're talking about the backload garages that Edge builds.
Right.
So you're going in, you're maybe
Right.
passing your neighbor, but you're pulling into your garage.
You're pulling into your driveway or your garage.
Okay.
So you still have the 20-foot alleyways plus driveways and garages. Right. Yeah.
Paxton, have these two, in talking with Ed just in the past, just in travels for business, I'm looking for what this will look like based on what you've already built.
Mm-hmm.
Are the condo products and the townhome products the same as anywhere else, like Mountain Ridge or any of these existing places that you've got? I noticed that you went 4 stories high on the condo. That's usually not allowed in other municipalities at all, right? So help me just shed some light so that as we're thinking of this, is the townhome and the condo product like or unlike what you built in the past?
Very good question. And I'm going to give you a very honest answer here. This is the first time we'll be building a 4-story condo. We have designed a 4-story condominium for this project. Candidly, this is the highest density project that we've ever built. And it's sort of a remarkable feat to be able to design a for-sale product with this kind of density and still have a functional layout with the streets and the design. So we've come up with some, very unique but very workable designs here to get the density that was approved. Now, typically when you see 4 to 10-story buildings, those are apartments, right? That's where you see the real high building. We're not building anything higher than 4 stories. And so that's sort of the trade-off. Having said that, we are building the back-to-back townhomes and the 3-story condominiums in many locations.
It's that same product. You've just slapped another layer on the condo.
One extra layer.
So this is what, sorry to interrupt, but this is why I asked that question. So if you go to Mountain Ridge, you'll be able to see the townhomes that back each other with that alleyway. You'll actually be able to see 2 condo products that actually back each other. And frankly speaking, it is tight. So as you're pulling out of one driveway, you're almost like, if you go back to that, just the site plan, you'll look, for example, where you mentioned that private lane up here, let's say on building, it's right underneath where it says covered parking TYP, right? So that little example right there, so that's asphalt road, but that's driveway there. So the white is the driveway. And frankly speaking, I mean, that is, you're backing out of your garage, you're traversing over the asphalt in some situations and bumping back up on the other side of the driveway, if you will, on the other neighbor's driveway. Same dynamic, most likely down here in the with the private lanes in between the townhomes, right, with these garages that are backing in. And again, to be expected if you say that this is the density. Now again, just to clarify, is the density there because of our station plan, or because this dirt's expensive and that'll pencil out, or both?
It's both. It's both. The station plan. There was a real threat that potentially the state would require even a higher density, and so the give and take was, look, let's agree to a minimum of 25 units, a maximum of 27 units per acre, and let's agree that it has to be a for sale product, and let's agree that there's going to be a certain number of units set aside for workforce housing, city employees, teachers, first responders, price restrictions. Let's get all of that on the table right now with the rezone, and then figure out later, from an engineering perspective, how you can design a product that will actually meet that density. And this is what we've come up with.
I do want to come back to that before we're done with the affordability, so we'll talk about that in a second.
You can see these exact same products are being built at Mountain Ridge or even at Mount Rainier in Harriman right now, and they're beautiful. We were out there just this morning looking at them. They really do look and feel nice. Our condominium units are what we call generational units, where it's not just a 1 or 2 bedroom condominium. Every single one of these is a 3-bedroom condominium unit, where families can have children and stay there longer than just you would if there was only 1 or 2 bedrooms. So they're designed to have a livability factor. And then the clubhouse and the amenities there, we came up with a new design, an enhanced design for the clubhouse that is truly spectacular. It's a very nice facility.
Hey, just for kicks, Paxton, do you know how deep these driveways are?
Yes.
How deep?
18 feet.
Wow.
Right on.
That's short.
And you know what?
But again, I'm jesting a little bit just because, 20 is what we're looking at, the other one. But the short driveways were 15, and these driveways are 18.
Right.
So
an 18 is a parking stall.
That's the case to make, is to say if you're at 15,
9 by 18.
all over it. And again, to be expected.
Our garages are 20 feet deep at a minimum. Some are
very good, very good. So the garages, and then that's really where you take the space as you take it out, and the private lanes, the private drives, you said are 27 feet across, right? 27, not just 20. So where it says private drive everywhere that we've got, that's all 27, and 20 is only.
The ones that are 20 are the alleys.
Okay, got it. Yeah,
right.
The alleys are 20, and everything else because you're banking on the driveways as some kind of So, yeah, again,
you get it.
For how high density that is, that's where it comes from. Is it's going to come on that hardscape. It's going to come off of that.
I will say, if you drive around town and you look at some townhome projects, they don't even have driveways. A lot of these townhome projects have these little aprons that are like 5 or 6 feet. That to me, that's a waste of concrete. Why do that?
You've got a case of that that was put in long before I even was, probably right when I hit the planning commission, like in 2012. It's just to the south of this, and it's almost non-existent. It's bad. Like it's almost you're coming out of your garage and you're hitting the fence of the property line.
Right.
To just try to back out of your garage. So this will all work. That's why I put it in perspective. If you guys want to see a little bit more about this, when you're looking at Edge's products that are existing, that helps to hear that these are like the ones you've already put in.
They are.
Okay, can I ask about the affordability? You mentioned the who and how is that happening? Because that's one of the pieces in this development agreement. I don't know if you guys knew this, but there's proposed different pricing for not just law enforcement, but I think
City
we've got
employees, first responders.
single moms, whatever you want to call other whatever low income is.
From the
For the original development agreement.
I don't
You
have that.
Okay.
Was it like 30 units or something?
I think it was 30
units.
workforce
units.
housing units, and it called for public-private partnership between Edge Homes and Draper City to accomplish that. I think it did set specific standards as far as how much buy down Edge may do and how much buy down the city may do.
That's right.
I just don't remember how much.
That's written in the development agreement?
The
That's
original
not being
development.
changed. So that's already part of the development agreement. That
Was
approved
there
last year.
anything in there, you'll be privy to this, was there anything in there that says that X number of units are being sold at cost for low-income qualifiers?
For the resale? No.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I heard that from one of your sales guys, so you might want to reel that in. So that, no,
no,
just it was in passing, just saying, hey, we've got, X number of units that will be sold at cost. And that sounded appealing because typically what it is just law enforcement, essential workers, nurses, medical, stuff like that. So what we were looking at is in that conversation I had was to say, okay, how do we get just everyone that's not that into the low income?
The subsidy amounts to, depending on how much the city wants to subsidize with some of the RDA funds, it's about a $60,000 subsidy for each of the 30 workforce housing units. So you take a market rate, what we're selling those exact units for on the open market, and you get a $60,000 subsidy for those buyers who qualify.
Well, that's fair. Okay. And you're calling it workforce housing.
We're calling it workforce housing.
All right, I'll use the same term, workforce housing then. Yeah. So, okay. And that's not just law enforcement and medical.
It's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
It's part of the attainable housing pricing functions that the state's working on.
It's the only way you can do it. I mean,
it's
especially here in Draper. Again, you heard me comment on the last one. I don't need my kids to live here in town. They've got to earn that. But at the same time, it's just making it available, making places as we're making new places to live. It'll be nice to see something that they can live here.
But what we did not do is put any sort of a restriction on the resale price. In other words, if somebody qualifies to buy it the first time, we're not going to restrict what they can sell it for when they sell.
That's fair. Yeah. Cool.
What percentage of it is ownership? Is it 100%? I was thinking that some of it was rentable.
So that they're, oh my goodness. I didn't review the development
I'm
agreement.
sorry.
I am so sorry. That's not before us tonight because we're not asking for that to be changed in the development agreement. I probably
But it can just be a yes or no. Is some of it rentable? We've been talking like it's been all home ownership, and that wasn't my impression.
Yeah, some of it is rentable, but it's what we. Oh, okay, I do remember this. Thank you. This just jogged my memory.
Sometimes
I don't know where that came from. We cannot sell to institutional investors. Okay. That's a restriction in the development agreement. So what we interpret that to mean is that because you hear about like the Wall Street entities coming in and buying mass numbers of homes, and then they're controlling the rental market for that area, essentially. No, institutional investors are gone. So it's going to be sold to owner-occupants and one-off people who want to buy and try to rent it out.
Is that what your question was? Or you were asking if Edge is keeping any and renting them out like they are across the way?
Yes, but I appreciate
We also have that.
Too.
I'm sorry. We also have that in
that
there.
Was my question.
We are not allowed to keep any as rentals.
Okay.
That's clearly stated in the, and that's not our business plan. We never do that.
Okay. So 100% of these units will be sold.
Yes.
And then is there a restriction then beyond the initial purchaser on the institutional investors? Or is that just
No, but you know what? An institutional investor will never be able to get 100 different unit owners on board with selling to them at the same time.
We've had a neighborhood in Draper where that has happened, where a large number of, in a small home neighborhood, and it has done terrible things to that neighborhood. Well, so according to the residents, I don't live there.
Yeah, this is,
But-
if I can give you the track record, Mary, with these guys, just for some
Well,
perspective.
it wouldn't be on them.
No,
Just-
well, what they've done in other neighborhoods that they've said, hey, look, only the only ones will sell to non-owner occupants are like the second floor. Second floor gets non-owner occupant. Third floor, first floor on the condos has to be owner occupied. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do with this, but that's been without city restrictions. Well, okay.
No, I'm
You
just
guys
saying.
want to hear it or not?
No,
They're all
So one-
rentable, though. There's no rental.
One thing I will.
Anyway, I'm going off.
I'll add is there will be an HOA. There'll be an owners association tied to this. So the HOA can put regulations in,
Just like
in
all the
addition to what the city has with the development agreement.
Great. All right, let's get back on track and then go through the design standards here and what's in front of us tonight. So thanks for explaining a little bit about the development agreement. We'll look at that if we're interested.
Basically, I'll answer any other questions you might have.
I have another question. So the landscape buffer on Juan Diego, this was 9 months ago. I don't remember every detail, admittedly, but I remember that being discussed and sold to us as like, we're doing this thing and we're going to make it right with all the neighbors. And now we're looking at no buffer, really? We've got parking stalls, it looks like there, and I don't remember all the details, but there's definitely a reduction.
Yeah.
So
We want to avoid those projects that are underparked. We are overparked here. We have more parking than the basic city standards require. And I probably should have asked Joe Colissimo to stay because we've worked with him on this and we've gotten his approval. And I don't think, is anybody, I don't know if you were part of any of those discussions, Jen, but we have worked directly with Joe Colosimo in the Juan Diego School on this exact issue. And he said, I am fine with this because you're going to have a fence there. And we don't really care if you have parking stalls or landscaping on the other side of the fence that we don't see.
they just didn't want buildings? Is that,
All he cared about is that we meet the distance between the wall and where our buildings start.
Right.
And yes, we're meeting that distance.
Basically, it's set back from the property line before
Yes.
your structure starts.
Exactly. That's the only
So you
thing
didn't
he
have
cared
your
about.
condos backing right onto the ball field.
Right.
And so I guess in terms of a neighbor, especially not being a residential neighbor, we're accomplishing the same thing, whether it's landscape or
Right.
not. Sorry, I'm talking
No, you're absolutely
out
right.
loud about and
Like I said,
working this out in my
he
head.
wouldn't be
but-
able to see from their property
Right,
if we have
if there were
landscaping or
landscape.
parking stalls.
Right.
That didn't matter to him. All he cared about was the setback from the buildings to that property line.
Yeah.
And frankly,
That makes
we
sense.
want to put every parking stall we can inside this project,
Even down around the cul-de-sac.
even down by 115.
Even those eight slots, which is
We'll figure that
on
out.
point for tonight.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and look at this
Parking.
amendment.
It's our
Yep.
theme, right?
And I didn't mean to sit and harp over that creek issue, but when I didn't see it even on like your
That was a
amenities
good
map,
catch.
then I went, oh,
Yeah, don't
and I
apologize.
panicked.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, it's
It-
strange. It's curious. It's not on this
Yeah.
plan.
It's on the amenities map
It's
specifically.
curious. It's
But okay.
missing from here. Yeah.
The
Design,
next step
some of
in
the
this
design.
process is a site plan approval, and it will be clearly shown there. So
Great.
maybe we'll just add a sentence in the body that says we'll be developing that trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
It is interesting that it was left out of the
Yeah.
document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That-
That's when I panicked.
Not
Yeah.
intentional. Not trying to slide one by anybody here.
No, I mean, the city council.
Well,
Well,
Paxton,
things get
let's
overlooked.
do this. Let's pop this open for public comment, and then if there's anything that we need, then we can just deliberate and just move it on and get it pushed on. So, okay, thank you. We'll invite you back up if we need you. All right, this is a public hearing. Who would like to take their 3 minutes? Come on up and take their time to shine. And as before, just please state your name.
Sure, my name is Denise Smith, and I live in the property just across the street. So, I sat here all night long, and we talked about parking and driveways and the length and the spaces, and they want to shorten, make smaller, and all this stuff. And I'm concerned, number one, about the traffic of this place. And I just want you guys to really think about when you start developing this, figuring all this out. I just can't even imagine what it's going to be like. And so I really want you to think about that and think about these alterations, making it tighter, smaller, more tight. and it just starts to get more claustrophobic. And maybe the solution is not as many. That's my thought.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? I'm just looking at some neighbors back there. Nope, that have hung out this. It's late. You guys have hung out this far. Good. We won't coerce you to come up. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion of this agenda item. All right, commissioners.
So
Just a recommendation on a amendment here to the DA.
when we're talking about driveways, we were talking about 15 feet. These are 18 feet. How much of a difference is that? Is that?
Well, a standard parking stall is 9 by 18. That's kind of why I was always at least stuck on at least that minimum.
So it's not really a concern because we have so much other parking.
I'm okay with what they're presenting as far as size. Myself am okay with that because they're at least 18.
Because 18 generally fits vehicles where 15. Well, in there we were looking at cars encroaching on sidewalks.
Right, into the public right of way.
In the public right of way. And here, we're not looking at that issue.
Correct.
Well, here, I mean, to be fair, that if you've just got that driveway just pulling right out into the street, if it's 15 feet or 25 feet, it doesn't matter. Here, you've got shorter driveways. I'm just pointing that out. That went out into the street, didn't really affect anything except on paper. And logistically and realistically, this 18, you have to back almost onto the other person's driveway. You will touch the other person's driveway to you do a back out of your driveway.
For sure.
Versus the other project that we're talking. I was just in jest wanting to hear, get ready for this. These are 18.
Stir up the pot.
What about the amount of traffic? Is that something that have they done a study, Brian? How do
The
you
zone's already approved.
Yeah,
the density's approved. That's
can't
not
do anything
what
about
we're
that.
looking at.
So just to clarify, they will have to do a traffic impact study, and they will have to mitigate those traffic impacts. We've touched on it briefly. For impacts to the development, well, to the surrounding streets, the only thing that they mitigate is the impacts the project has on the surrounding streets. So that analysis and study will be part of the site plan process.
Got it.
So we'll address it at that point. Thank you.
But traffic is always a good point to be noted.
So
it's here.
So Susan, do you want to make the motion and include the adding the information about the canal trails?
The canal and then the 3 staff recommended additions?
I'm good with that. Anybody else want to talk or about more?
Yeah, as soon as I find it here.
Hey, yeah.
Sure, I'll give it a shot. Okay, I move that we forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for the Development Agreement Amendment as requested by Mike Winters, representing Edge Homes, for Kimball's Junction Development Agreement Amendment, application 2025-0293-DA, based on the findings for approval and subject to the recommendations listed in the staff report dated February 27, 2026, with the addition of the 3 shown on the screen, and then a sentence also to include that the canal trail be installed and, when completed, dedicated over to the city.
I think those 3 staff recommendations are in the report.
Oh, they are? The 3
The
that are
ones on the
up above?
screen, I think they're in our report. I'm opening it up to tell you the page. Oh, you've got it.
It's right there.
What page is it?
So that's page 8.
Of the staff report. So it is included, Susan, so we're good.
Hold on then. Okay, let me get to page 8.
Yeah, it's got those in there.
Okay.
But add your trail deal.
Okay, then just add my trail
Great.
request.
Okay, we'll put that as the motion then. Thank you, Susan. This is for a positive recommendation with that,
Yes.
addition. And then who will second that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Let's go ahead and put this to a vote. Start with you, Susan.
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
I didn't know if my microphone was on there or not, so, okay, thanks. All right, good luck with that, yep. Good luck with the city council. Thanks, Paxton. All right, let's go on to our last public hearing item. It is the city-initiated Alpine Draper boundary adjustment land use map and zoning map amendment. It's on the request of Draper City for land use map and zoning map amendments to remove approximately 0.45 acres of property from Draper City land use and zoning maps. The property is located at approximately 16001 south and 3500 east and is subject of a municipal boundary line adjustment with Alpine City. This is known as application 2026-0046-MA and 2026-0047-MA. Todd Draper, take it away.
There, thought I had it on. All right, another one of these fun ones. And so I'll just report that the last one we did just like this, City Council did go through and approve for the Highland boundary adjustment for the land use map and zoning map. So this is the second one we've got with Alpine. This is the vicinity map, similar area on that southeast side of the city. And then it's really hard to see, but we do have a really nice, skinny, narrow strip where we're going to be adjusting the municipal boundary between us and Alpine. Yeah, it's probably easier to see here. It's also in that hillside, low-density land use, and this one happens to be into the RR22 zone, which does not appear in our land use code anymore. And it is in that hillside sensitive overlay zone as well. Here's our infamous site photo, and I have moved the arrow slightly to show where this one is located. I did not fly a balloon. I used the same photo. And we're just looking for recommendation to the City Council on removing those areas from our land use map and from our zoning map.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. It's a public hearing, so we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone like to address this agenda item? Here we go. Man, we could have bumped this up. First off, thank you for staying.
Well, thank you. My name is David Whitbeck. 19 months ago, my wife Carrie and I purchased a lot in Alpine, just on the other side of the Draper border. We did our due diligence. We walked the lot with a surveyor. There's metal survey stakes on our property. We thought we knew what we were getting. We bought it. After we bought it, we found out that there was an error made by the county recorder that basically subtracted about 20 feet from our property. And we would like to correct that error. Essentially what the county said was that the Alpine City border was about 20 feet to the east, and that didn't match where the subdivision was staked. And the surveyor, who's also here tonight, said that in order to correct this, we just need to have Draper and Alpine and the county all get on board. And I just basically wanted to tell you, we just want to correct this error.
Perfect. Thank you. So not the applicant, but rather the affected party. The reason for all of it. Okay, thank you. Interesting. Anyone else? He summed it up pretty succinct. All right, thank you. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and we'll go close the public hearing portion, and let's put this to a vote for a positive or negative recommendation to City Council. Go ahead.
I'll make the motion. I move that we forward positive recommendations to the City Council for the proposed land use map and zoning amendments as requested by Draper City application 2026-0046-MA and 2026-0047-MA based on the findings and criteria for approval as listed in the staff report dated February 25, 2026. The amendments are consistent with the goals and objectives and policies of the city's plan and are appropriate.
Thank you. Who'll second that motion?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, let's put it to a vote. Lisa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
And Susan?
Yes.
All right. Congrats on halfway there. So thanks for staying late. It's definitely a record setter tonight, so thank you. All right. It looks like we have training now from Spencer. Is that right? For 35 minutes.
We adjourn.
Yeah, we have.
Let's
we have
adjourn.
no other
Seeing no
business.
other business, we'll adjourn. Is that?
I think he went to go talk to Paxton, I think. He went to go talk to Paxton.
We would have put it earlier. We're like, nobody's coming.